Chapter 317. Two dense silver sword chi tore through the air and headed for the three people in front. The silver sword chi was as resplendent as a pillar. What a dense sword chi! It is equivalent to the strength of a peak martial saint, Xiaoqin said in astonishment as he looked at the two sword chi. Although Xiaoqin wanted those three combat puppets that were clearly different from the others, there was not enough meat to go around. If he fought over them, he would exhaust a lot of his strength. The fiery sect remnant would definitely have more than this. It was not time for him to go all out yet. Pooh! Just as Xiaoqin was thinking, a cold light flew at him. Xiaoqin pushed off the ground and instantly retreated tens of meters. Xiaoqin looked to the side and saw an iron-armored warrior. After it injured a cultivator, it broke out of the encirclement and charged at Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin had a calm expression as he smiled gently. Good timing. I can take a look at what these combat puppets are. Kang! Kang! The iron-armored warrior's heavy body leaped quickly on the ground. With every step it took, the armor on its body clashed with each other, giving off a melodious sound. Drawing the saber. Xiaoqin drew the lunar shadow saber with a ka-ca sound and swung it. It was like a roaring bolt of lightning. Its speed and strength were at their peak. With a xiao sound, it knocked away the sword in the iron-armored warrior's hand. It is still too weak. This iron-armored warrior does not have much value. Xiaoqin shook his head slightly and sheathed the lunar shadow saber. Xiaoqin took a step forward and tilted his head slightly, easily dodging the iron-armored warrior's attack. He clenched his fist and punched the iron-armored warrior. Boom! 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 The iron-armored warrior took 3 steps back. The heavy force caused the armor on its body to tremble. There was a loud cracking sound. Now, a casual punch from me can achieve 10,000 kilograms of force. For it to be able to receive a punch from me without shattering its bones, its defense is pretty good. Xiaoqin evaluated in his heart. He casually moved back and dodged the iron-armored warrior's attack again. Since the walls of the main hall were already behind him, Xiaoqin no longer intended to retreat. He stood where he was and held the lunar shadow saber in his left hand. He opened his right hand and used his palm as a saber, easily blocking the iron-armored warrior's attack. Its speed was not good either, it barely reached Mach 2. However, the way it attacked was very orderly, like it contained the shadow of several fist techniques. The iron-armored warrior's ancestors of the fiery sect were really geniuses. Xiaoqin easily exchanged moves with the iron-armored warrior with one. After exchanging a few moves, Xiaoqin, Xiaoqin, his speed was comparable to a medial-grade martial saint's. His strength was barely at inferior-grade martial saints. His defense was startling. His overall combat prowess was at the peak of medial-grade martial saint. However, the iron-armored warrior's energy source would eventually run out. It would not be able to fight indefinitely. At that time, it would become a pile of scrap metal. The 3 people surrounding the iron-armored warrior were completely dumbfounded. Earlier, the 3 of them had used their full power and could only barely suppress this iron-armored warrior. This was because the iron-armored warrior's defense was too strong. However, in Xiaoqin's hands, he did not even need to move his hand to easily toy with the iron-armored warrior. Bang! Xiaoqin shouted. He could not be bothered to continue playing with it. He punched with 60% of his strength, instantly reaching 25,000 kilograms of force. The iron-armored warrior was knocked to the ground. It struggled for a while before it stopped moving. After waiting for a while, Xiaoqin bent down and flipped the iron-armored warrior over. He discovered a tightly shut metal door on the back of the battle armor. The metal door was tightly shut, there was no way to open it. Xiaoqin found a small protruding metal plate at the side and pressed it without hesitation. Ka-ca. The 2 small metal doors immediately opened, revealing indentations filled with inferior-grade spirit stones. There were a total of 20 inferior-grade spirit stones in them. However, the spirit stones were currently dim, no different from ordinary stones. It was clear that their spiritual energy had been exhausted. So that's how it is, Xiaochen thought to himself. Using spirit stones as a source of energy. It was more or less what he expected. If he embedded a medial-grade spirit stone into it, its might increase. When the three people saw Xiaochen's actions, they suddenly reacted. They had discovered this combat puppet first. In the end, Xiaochen treated it as his own. You are seeking death. You actually dare to snatch my things? How reckless, one of them snorted coldly. Then, he swung his saber at Xiaochen. The other two were not slow. They attacked almost at the same time. 3 saber lights and sword images flew at Xiaochen with ferocious auras. Xiaochen raised his head slightly. There were no fluctuations in his calm eyes. He appeared indifferent, clearly dispirited. These 3 people were not enough for him. Glittering Wukue. Xiaochen drew the lunar shadow saber at lightning speed. He brandished the saber 3 times in the air and 3 strands of extremely dense purple saber chi comparable to that of a martial king appeared. In an instant, the saber and sword moves of the 3 people shattered. The weapons in their hands could not withstand the pressure and shattered. Bang! 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 The momentum of the saber chi did not decrease. It struck the protective essence of the 3 people and left horrifying wounds on their chests. Blood immediately spurted out. The intense shockwave blew the 3 people far away. They even tumbled miserably a few times. This was the result of Xiaochen showing mercy. If the saber chi contained the state of thunder, these 3 strands of saber chi would have easily chopped them in half. If it were a martial saint who had not comprehended a state, even a peak superior grade martial saint, Xiaochen would be able to kill them easily. In the martial saint realm, he was only a step away from being unrivaled. Quick, leave. We cannot offend this person. The 3 people on the ground did not care about their wounds. They looked at Xiaochen with horror in their eyes and quickly left the place. Seeing that they had already left, Xiaochen could not be bothered to chase after them. He focused his gaze on the inferior grade spirit stones once again, revealing a curious gaze. Take them out and see what exactly is inside. Xiaochen said softly. Then, he tossed out the spirit stones one by one. Finally, he saw a protruding needle at the bottom of the groove. After hesitating for a while, Xiaochen touched the needle with his index finger. He felt a slight pain and the needle immediately pricked his index finger. Blood flowed from his finger and countless pieces of information quickly appeared in Xiaochen's mind. The information was like the sea, giving Xiaochen a splitting headache. However, this did not last for long. After 3 breaths, the headache immediately disappeared. After he sorted through the information, Xiaochen slowly accepted it. Flowing cloud sword technique, Wuyue fist technique, everlasting flowing water, a general outline of martial techniques appeared in his mind. Xiaochen reacted. These were all the martial techniques of the iron-armored warriors. There were fist techniques, leg techniques, movement techniques, sword techniques, saber techniques, and spear techniques. Finally, all this information disappeared. Xiaochen felt an extremely weak will coming at him. However, his spiritual sense immediately swallowed it up. This should be the will left behind by the previous master of the iron-armored warrior. It has been too long, it is already insignificant. Next, it should be time for me to infuse my will into it. Xiaochen controlled his will and extended it down his arm, entering the interior of the iron-armored warrior. Then, he imprinted his will on it. When he released his finger, Xiaochen immediately felt like he had a clone. However, this clone could not move yet. Xiaochen took out an inferior grade spirit stone from the universe ring and placed it in. Then, he closed the small metal door behind the iron-armored warrior. With a thought, the iron-armored warrior stood up. Xiaochen controlled the iron-armored warrior. He felt that it was very convenient and simple. There were 2 ways to control it. One was to control it actively, it was as easy as moving his own arm. The other was to control it autonomously. He could lock onto an enemy and let the iron-armored warrior attack on its own. Xiaochen tried to lock onto a stone pillar for it to immediately attack. After that, there was no need for Xiaochen to worry. Xiaochen smiled gently and said indifferently, "The people of the Firely sect are truly geniuses. To think that they could do something like this." Not only did they inherit the method of creating secret treasures from the ancient times, they even created a secret treasure like the combat puppet. In the end, due to the exhaustion of spiritual energy, aside from a few that were completely destroyed, the rest of the iron-armored warriors were controlled by someone else. It looked like the issue of spiritual energy was the combat puppet's greatest weakness. If it did not have this weakness, the combat puppet would be nearly perfect. Xiaochen shifted his gaze upwards. The two silver combat puppets were still as tyrannical and ferocious as before. They brandished their swords and sharp sword chi spread out continuously. Even the air was sliced in half. The 10 of them fought an intense battle. All sorts of martial techniques and sword chi struck the other party. However, to the combat puppets that did not feel pain, they could not feel it at all. A strange scene occurred on the battlefield. The silver-armored warrior, who was only a peak superior grade martial saint, suppressed 10 peak superior grade martial saints with deep cultivations. Of course, this was also because the 10 of them knew that they could defeat the other party by exhausting the other party's essence. All they had to do was drag out some time, there was no need to waste a huge battle. Clearly, the true enemy was not the silver-armored warrior. Instead, it was the teammates that were fighting the silver-armored warrior. They are far from exhausted of spiritual energy. It looks like these silver combat puppets use medial-grade spirit stones, Xiaochen thought to himself. If the silver-armored warrior could revive, then the golden-armored warrior on the throne should be able to revive as well. If the silver one was a peak martial saint, then the golden-armored warrior would be a martial king. A completely loyal martial king helper that did not feel pain, did not know fatigue, and did not know what that meant. Everyone here knew what that meant. That meant that the golden-armored warrior would be able to double their strength. In this Firely sect remnant, they would have the best trump card in the upcoming fight for the secret treasure. The reason why these 10 people had not used their trump cards to deal with the two silver-armored warriors was probably because of the golden-armored warrior on the throne. The outstanding talents that subdued the iron-armored warriors felt their confidence swell. They felt that they could deal with the golden-armored warrior with their strength. Compared to the 10 demonic geniuses, they might be weaker. However, with the iron-armored warriors, they might have a chance if they took advantage of the crisis. They all stared at the golden-armored warrior on the scarlet throne, waiting for the golden-armored warrior to wake up and take action. Chapter 318. Xiaochen's gaze was focused on the golden-armored warrior. Like everyone else, Xiaochen was very interested in this golden-armored warrior. However, Xiaochen thought even further. Even if he obtained the golden-armored warrior, how to make it recognize him as its master was a problem. An iron-armored warrior required 3 breaths of time to recognize a master. The golden-armored warrior would definitely take longer. During this time, how to ensure that others would not make a move on him was the key. I have to think of a way to retreat in advance. Xiaochen looked at the 2 intersections behind the throne. He thought quickly and silently turned around. Xiaochen hid himself in the shadows. While everyone's attention was focused on the battle between the silver-armored warrior and the scarlet throne, he quickly made his way to the intersection. Xiaochen avoided everyone's gazes and walked quickly to the intersection. 10 minutes later, he returned to the main hall without a sound. He already had a plan in mind. The light of the 2 silver-armored warriors had already dimmed. It looked like they would not be able to last much longer. Once the silver-armored warrior fell, the golden-armored warrior would probably wake up. At that time, the true battle would begin. An inconspicuous patch of white appeared at the end of Duanmuking's black hair. Clearly, this was the prelude to circulating the profound ice incantation. A red figure was faintly discernible behind Hua Yunfei. The sword in his hand was spitting out a strange red sword light. Countless stars flickered in Ji Changkong's eyes. A resplendent river of stars surrounded him, slowly giving off a gentle light. Starlight shot out in all directions. Only one of his fate's stars was dim and incomparably silent. The Guy Marquis wore golden battle armor and held the sky-splitting sword in his hand. He had a grave and stern expression, and there was a righteous chi gathering on his forehead. Xiao Chen shifted his gaze to Chu Chaoyun. Chu Chaoyun appeared very carefree, his expression was as calm as before. However, Xiao Chen could feel that the holy weapon on his back was gathering a boundless aura. It was even trembling slightly. He seemed extremely excited, waiting for the moment he unsheathed it to shock everyone. The other cultivators below also rubbed their palms in anticipation. They controlled the iron-armored warriors to draw their weapons and unleash their auras without holding back. For a time, undercurrents surged in the main hall while various imposing auras surged without end, yet it seemed to be extremely quiet. This was the calm before the storm. Other than the sound of the sword key produced by the silver-armored warrior, even the heavy breathing of the crowd could be heard. Everyone's attention was raised to the extreme as they stared at the golden-armored warrior sitting on the throne. Their eyes were filled with a crazed desire. The two silver-armored warriors finally ran out of spiritual energy and fell to the ground with a bang. The instant the golden-armored warrior fell, two strands of golden light suddenly appeared in the empty eyes of the golden-armored warrior. He stood up from his throne. Clang clang. The golden battle armor on Xiao Chen's body clashed with each other, giving off clanging sounds that reverberated in the main hall. The golden-armored warrior drew the golden sword at his waist. Instantly, an aura equal to that of a peak inferior grade martial king spread out from his body. However, just at this moment, the killing moves that the 10 of them had prepared for a long time were finally unleashed without holding back. Astral swordplay, gathering stars. Ji Changkong shouted, and the sword in his hand released an incomparably dazzling light. The star that belonged to him immediately lit up with a resplendent light within the river of stars that was overflowing with light. Blood soul possession, blood killing the world. Hua Yunfei roared ferociously, and the indistinct scarlet figure behind him finally solidified and merged into his body. His eyes immediately turned scarlet and his lips curled up in a sinister smile. His aura rose infinitely and the scarlet sword in his hand gave off a bright red light. It seemed like it could engulf the world. Profound ice break, absolute zero. Duan Muking's black hair suddenly turned snow-white. His eyes lost all worldly fire. He looked like an emotionless fairy from the heavens. Countless snowflakes drifted down from the sky and the surrounding temperature plummeted. The cold penetrated deep into one's bones. The Guy Marquis, Ying Xiao, did not say anything unnecessary. He swung the holy weapon in his hand and a vague fluctuation appeared in the natural laws. He drew on the power of the heavenly Tao and attacked the golden-armored warrior. The 10 demonic geniuses made their moves one after another. Lights of various colors bloomed and shockwaves spread through the air. Many of the cultivators preparing to join in the fun were knocked back by the shockwaves. Such a horrifying attack had been prepared for a long time. Even a regular medial grade martial king would not have any other ending, they would die on the spot, they would not even have the chance to dodge. Xiao Chen's eyes were like lightning. Just as he was about to use the lightning evasion, he suddenly stopped and stared at the scarlet throne. The instant the golden-armored warrior stood up, the scarlet throne seemed to rise by 2 centimeters for no reason. Furthermore, Xiao Chen's spiritual sense felt a strong mental energy on it, disappearing in a flash. What's going on? Did I see wrong? Xiao Chen thought suspiciously. Just as Xiao Chen was feeling suspicious, the attacks of the 10 peak martial saints struck the golden-armored warrior at the same time. There was a loud sound and a horrifying shockwave exploded above the throne. Boom! The 12 stone pillars in the main hall shattered. The cultivators below could not dodge in time. The shockwave struck them, causing them to vomit blood and fall to the ground. The entire main hall started to shake violently. Rocks fell from the ceiling like raindrops, crashing down incessantly. The main hall looked like it was going to collapse soon. Dust filled the air and rocks fell like rain. The people on the ground fled in all directions, the place was extremely chaotic. Ha! Amid the chaos, a golden light suddenly lit up as the dust filled the air. It was as dazzling as the sun, dazzling everyone's eyes. It was Chu Chaoyun, who had been silent for a long time, making his move. Golden ripples appeared in the air as if the entire world was being torn apart. In an instant, Chu Chaoyun suppressed the peak attacks of the 9 cultivators. The 9 cultivators were all knocked back. This was Chu Chaoyun's strength. The moment he drew his holy weapon, a sword light appeared and suppressed everyone. Although Chu Chaoyun had the advantage of striking after the enemy attacked, this strength could not be erased, no matter what. Bang! Chu Chaoyun held the golden armored warrior, whose energy had been drained by everyone, in his embrace. Then, he smashed a large hole in the wall behind the throne. Then, he jumped in without hesitation. This palm added a fire to the shaking hall, and it began to collapse with a loud rumble. Let's go quickly. The hall is going to collapse. If we do not leave now, we will die. When the other cultivators saw that the situation was bad, they executed their trump cards to flee the main hall. The 9 cultivators that Chu Chaoyun knocked back did not hesitate. They revealed furious expressions as they followed Chu Chaoyun and jumped into the large hole in the wall. Boom! 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 The majestic and dignified hall completely collapsed. The huge rocks from the ceiling fell with a loud rumble, shaking the ground. It was like the sky was collapsing. After a long time, the hall, which was rumbling non-stop, finally quieted down. The hall, which was originally in perfect condition, was now in ruins. The hall was extremely dilapidated, there were broken fences and broken walls everywhere. Dust covered the ground, and smoke billowed. Ka-sie. On a pile of stone pillars and rocks, pieces of broken bricks slid down rapidly. A badly damaged warrior in iron armor stood up with a loud bang, and the rubble and rocks completely slid down. Xiao Qian, who was lying on the ground, patted the dust off his body and stood out from the middle, completely unharmed. Xiao Qian looked at the badly damaged iron-armored warrior and smiled faintly. He said, "The defense of the iron-armored warrior is indeed astonishing. It helped me block the endless rocks from above. Unfortunately, it looks like it is about to be scrapped." Xiao Qian shook his head slightly and looked at the now empty ruins. Then, he shifted his gaze to the dust-covered scarlet throne. Then, he walked over with a determined gaze. Ca. Ca. Stepping on the rubble and tiles on the ground, Xiao Qian arrived at the scarlet throne step by step. However, he was not in a rush to check on the situation on the throne. Xiao Qian looked around. After he verified that there was no one around, he returned to the side of the throne. Just as he was about to check on it, he noticed the battle armor of the silver-armored warrior in a corner of the rubble. Xiao Qian sent out a few palm winds and blew away the rubble on the ground, revealing 2 silver combat puppets. Aside from the dust on the surface of the battle armor, it was surprisingly undamaged. It looked like the defense of this silver battle armor rivaled that of an inferior-grade martial king. Compared to the iron-armored warrior, it was much stronger. Xiao Qian gently waved his sleeves and immediately swept away all the dust on the silver-armored warrior. Xiao Qian squatted down and opened the small door on the back of the silver-armored warrior. As he had expected, the silver-armored warrior had indeed used medial-grade spirit stones. There were 20 of them, no more, no less. Xiao Qian took out the discarded medial-grade spirit stones from the grooves and erased the will of the predecessors. Then, he started to recognize them as his own. This recognition took 5 minutes before Xiao Qian's will was completely imprinted on them. After a while, the 2 silver-armored warriors were recognized by Xiao Qian as their masters. After he filled them with medial-grade spirit stones, the silver-armored warriors immediately recovered their vitality. When Xiao Qian swung his sword, a sharp sword qi rampaged through the rubble. Everywhere it passed, the broken walls turned into rubble. Xiao Qian nodded in satisfaction. With the addition of the 2 silver-armored warriors and the broken iron-armored warrior, he should be able to deal with Chu Chaoyun's golden-armored warrior. Recollecting his thoughts, Xiao Qin shifted his gaze back to the Scarlet Throne. He controlled the 3 combat puppets to move away the large rocks on the throne. After that, Xiao Qin waved his sleeves and blew away all the dust. The Scarlet Throne finally appeared in his vision. The entire throne was made of a mysterious scarlet material. When Xiao Qin touched the patterns on it, he found it very strange. This was the material used to polish the throne. It was not made of metal, spirit wood, or even rock. It was heavy and cool to the touch. Xiao Qin thought of the strong mental energy he felt earlier. He placed one hand on the armrest of the throne and slowly infused his spiritual sense into the throne. Chapter 319. Boom! The instant his spiritual sense entered the throne, an intense explosion resounded in Xiao Chen's ears. His mind buzzed as a boundless state of massacre infused into it. The horrifying state of massacre was like a scarlet sea. It instantly infused into every one of Xiao Chen's nerves. An uncontrollable murderous intent arose in Xiao Chen's heart. His eyes instantly turned scarlet, and his fine black hair fluttered about. His delicate face turned sinister and horrifying, like a man-eating demon. How can it be like this? Xiao Qin was horrified. He wanted to let go, but a huge force held his hand in place. He could not let go at all. I can't go on like this. My will be filled with massacre. After that, I will lose all reason and become a true murderous demon king. This state of massacre is too horrifying. Xiao Qin circulated the purple thunder divine incantation and guarded his dantian. He sank his consciousness and did his best to maintain a trace of clarity in his divine pedestal. The surging state of massacre in the Scarlet Sea was boundless and overwhelming. As Xiao Qin resisted this energy, he felt incredible pain. His skin turned incredibly pale. The capillaries under his skin were clearly visible. They looked like they wanted to break free from the restraints of his skin and burst open. This feeling was several times more painful than when the blue dragon martial spirit first awakened. It was not something a human could endure. Amid the torment, Xiao Chen's consciousness started to turn blurry. He could no longer endure it and howled in pain. Bang! 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 The capillaries under Xiao Chen's skin ruptured. Tiny drops of blood instantly covered his skin, making him look like a man made of blood. Give up. Accept this unbridled state of the sand. All your pain will immediately disappear. You can even enjoy boundless power. As Xiao Chen held on bitterly, an ethereal voice rang out in his mind. The voice resounded in his ears continuously, luring him to give up resisting. No way. Xiao Chen clenched his teeth and ignored the voice in his mind. He clung to the last trace of clarity in his divine pedestal. Once he gave up resisting, he would completely become a slave of slaughter, and his original self would completely disappear. Suddenly, Xiao Chen recalled some of the records in the Compendium of Cultivation. This Scarlet Throne should be a secret treasure. However, it was not a secret treasure of the righteous Tao but an evil Tao secret treasure. The owner of the secret treasure should have already died, but the evil will born from the secret treasure had not disappeared. However, it had been silent for such a long time, so this will was definitely not very strong. I was just caught off guard. If his spiritual sense was really stronger than mine, he would have already devoured me. Xiao Chen gathered all of his divine senses together. With a thought, his divine senses immediately turned into a golden deity and flew toward the blood river in the deepest part of the throne. He had to find that will and destroy it. Otherwise, with such a passive resistance, it would only be a matter of time before he succumbed. The deity flew further and further away in the consciousness space. The boundless sea of blood seemed endless. However, Xiao Chen did not feel discouraged. There would always be an end to the boundless sea of blood. The consciousness space was no exception. Unless the other party was a true ancient emperor, they might not be able to condense an eternal sea of blood. After an unknown amount of time, the deity controlled by Xiaochen finally arrived at the end of the Sea of Blood. There was a scarlet abyss there, and a huge scarlet head connected to the Sea of Blood. It looked at the deity from afar. The scarlet head roared angrily and opened its huge mouth, swallowing the golden deity in an instant. The golden deity closed its eyes and allowed the boundless blood to stick to its body. After a while, it suddenly opened its eyes, and a dazzling golden light pierced through the scarlet head. The scarlet head howled in pain. It gave up on swallowing the deity and retreated in horror. Indeed, it is as I expected. This evil will of massacre is very weak. I was just too rash. I did not have time to condense my spiritual sense and rashly sent it in. Hence, I was caught off guard. This is a lesson. In the future, whenever I face something unknown, I have to be very cautious. The scarlet light in Xiaochen's eyes faded a little. They were no longer as horrifying as before, and they slowly became clear. The scarlet head retreated to the sky above the abyss and waved its hand. A huge scarlet hand appeared above the Sea of Blood and smashed at the golden deity. Kill! The golden deity shouted angrily, and a sword shining with golden light appeared in its hand. It swung the sword, and the surging golden light chopped the scarlet hand into pieces. The golden deity pointed the sword at the sky, and a pillar of light rushed into the sky. Instantly, a bright light scattered down. The light turned into a golden liquid that dripped onto the Sea of Blood like rain. As more and more of the golden liquid merged into the Sea of Blood, the Sea of Blood started to boil and slowly turned into a golden sea. Ah! 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 The scarlet head looked like it was being boiled as it cried out in pain. When the Sea of Blood turned completely golden, its body that was connected to the Sea of Blood was completely chopped off, leaving only a lonely head. Back in reality, the scarlet light in Xiaochen's eyes vanished. His sinister expression vanished, and he calmed down. That heart-wrenching pain no longer existed. All that was left was Gu Linlin's head. In this spiritual world, it could be said that there was no way out and there was no way out. It tried several times to burrow into the sea of consciousness. In the end, when it touched the golden Sea of Blood, it cried out in pain. Furthermore, its head shrank. Xiaochen controlled the golden deity to send out strands of sword light. The scarlet head scurried around in the air, dodging the horrifying golden light. In the end, it is just a paper tiger, Xiaochen thought to himself. The golden deity took advantage of this opportunity. Its left hand grew infinitely large, and it grabbed the head. Don't kill me. I can recognize you as my master and establish a blood contract. I will never betray you. Also, I will tell you the secret of this massacre thrown in full detail. After the scarlet head was grabbed, it begged non-stop. Evil demon, what use do I have for you? Xiaochen snorted coldly and crushed the scarlet head. This evil creature was crafty and capricious. When it grew stronger, it might immediately turn around and bite Xiaochen. It could not be left alive. As for the secret of the Scarlet Throne, Xiaochen could slowly dig it out. This was a matter of life and death. It was always better to be cautious. The instant the scarlet head was completely destroyed, the Scarlet Throne under Xiaochen's hand turned into a red beam of light and quickly entered every part of Xiaochen's body. After the beam of light entered Xiaochen's body, the wounds caused by the exploding blood vessels all over his body healed at a visible rate. After a while, Xiaochen had completely recovered. All the wounds had vanished, and his skin glowed with a white glow. It was even fairer and more tender than an ordinary woman's. Boom! The red light that flowed through every part of Xiaochen's body gathered at his forehead, forming a red throne mark the size of a pinky finger. Xiaochen withdrew his spiritual sense and looked at everything that happened to his body. He revealed a doubtful expression in his eyes. Xiaochen placed his left hand before his eyes and looked carefully. He saw that the skin was as white as frost, crystalline and translucent. This pair of hands was so beautiful that it was scary. Not only did the surface change greatly, but Xiao Chen also felt a huge force when he clenched his fist. His physical body was even stronger than before. When Xiao Chen saw the badly damaged iron-armored warrior at the side, he slowly walked over and casually punched the iron-armored warrior's chest. The huge force flowed through Xiao Chen's slender right arm and into his 5 fingers. There was a loud boom, and the badly damaged iron-armored warrior immediately shattered into pieces. The various metal fragments of the armor scattered all over the ground. However, they were so broken that they could not be broken anymore. There was no way to repair them anymore. Xiao Chen revealed an expression of pleasant surprise. He said with some uncertainty, after the dragon and tiger body sculpting art reached the threshold of the 4th layer, dragon tendon tiger bone, the strength of my next strike reached 10,000 kilograms of force. A full power strike can only achieve 15,000 kilograms of force. However, that casual strike clearly achieved 15,000 kilograms of force. Could it be that after this scarlet throne entered my body, it strengthened my physical body? Suddenly, Xiao Chen had a guess. With the increase in strength, would a few more acupoints on his right arm open? Xiao Chen checked the acupoints on his right arm. Indeed, it was as he expected. The original one had increased to 14. He was just short of 2 more before he could open all 16 acupoints on his right arm. It looks like it will not be long before the true blue dragon chi appears, Xiao Chen thought excitedly. After checking to see if there were any other changes, Xiao Chen took out a small knife and gently sliced his jade-like skin. Instantly, a small wound appeared, and blood flowed out. However, not long after, scars appeared on the wound. Then, they quickly disappeared. His skin became as good as before, there was no way to tell that he had been injured. Unexpectedly, his body possessed the ability to heal naturally. His strength also became more reserved. The exaggerated muscles that he had trained in the past had all shrunk back. Xiao Chen returned to the appearance of an ordinary person. However, the force he used had doubled. What exactly is the origin of this scarlet throne? Xiao Chen put away the small knife, his eyes filled with doubt. Closing his eyes, Xiao Chen carefully sensed the position of the scarlet throne. A scarlet throne floated in the sea of consciousness on his forehead. A supreme might spread throughout the entire sea of consciousness. The forehead was the source of all cultivators' spiritual world. It was known as the sea of consciousness. However, only people with extremely strong mental energy could truly open their own sea of consciousness. According to the cultivation realms of the Tianwu continent, only martial monarchs could truly open their own sea of consciousness. Ordinary people would never have the chance to open their sea of consciousness in their lifetime. Hence, they would not care about this problem. After opening the sea of consciousness, cultivators could truly cultivate their mental energy. Before this, cultivators only had perception, they did not have true mental energy. In the past, because of the Purple Thunder divine incantation, Xiao Chen could cultivate mental energy from the start. His mental energy was much stronger than a regular cultivator's. It could even be said that they were on a completely different level. However, there was still a long way to go before he could open his sea of consciousness. At the very least, his cultivation realm was not high enough. Unexpectedly, he managed to open his sea of consciousness because of the Scarlet Throne. Chapter 320. Xiao Chen had not seriously studied how to use mental energy in combat. He did not have any introductory methods, so he did not care much about it. He just used his spiritual sense to probe. Xiao Chen did not see any benefits from opening his sea of consciousness in advance, so he did not need to think about it. He summoned out the throne first. With a thought, the scarlet throne mark on Xiao Chen's forehead flashed with a red light. The throne in his sea of consciousness immediately flew out. Who? The scarlet throne floated in the air. Xiao Chen discovered that he was already sitting on it. He placed his hands on the armrests and leaned against the back of the throne. Below the throne was a layer of churning blood-colored clouds. The reason the throne was able to float seemed to be because of this layer of blood-colored clouds. Xiaochen felt that this scarlet throne was like his flesh and blood. That sense of intimacy was much stronger than that of the combat puppets. The two could not be compared at all. When Xiaochen sat on the scarlet throne, an uncontrollable king's might spread out. This king's might was released unintentionally. Even Xiaochen did not feel it. There was only a small trace of king's might, but the aura and might it contained made one's heart tremble. This king's might was comparable to a regular king's might. If an ordinary person appeared here, they would definitely not be able to withstand the pressure and fall to their knees. Fly. Xiaochen looked ahead and locked on to a direction. The scarlet clouds drove the throne in that direction at lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, it moved more than 100 meters. Xiaochen patted the armrest gently and muttered, "Just a casual move and I reached the speed of sound. Furthermore, it seems like I have not had enough yet. It looks like I can reach 1.5 times the speed of sound if I fly at full speed. In the future, I will have another option for escaping and traveling." This was the first time Xiaochen experienced the flying function of the Scarlet Throne. He felt somewhat excited. He flew for a long time above the ruins before stopping. Whoo! Xiaochen tore through the scarlet clouds and landed firmly on the ground. The scarlet mark on his forehead flashed with a red light, and the scarlet throne immediately turned into a beam of light and returned to his sea of consciousness. The scarlet throne really has many secrets. I will slowly dig them out in the future, Xiaochen said softly as he touched the mark on his forehead. Suddenly, Xiaochen thought of something. He took out a bronze mirror from the universe ring and looked at his face. His appearance had not changed much, just that his skin was much fairer than before. Fortunately, the effects of the shape-shifting spell were still present. Otherwise, he would have been exposed and could only leave. Just as Xiaochen was about to put down the bronze mirror, he glanced at the scarlet throne mark on his forehead. It looked like a drop of blood was imprinted on it. Xiaochen's originally delicate face now had a strange demonic air to it. With one look, it would leave a deep impression. No, this mark is too eye-catching. If I do things here, I will be too high-profile. Xiaochen put down the bronze mirror and took out a blue strip of cloth to cover his forehead, covering the mark. After the blue strip of cloth covered the mark, Xiaochen's delicate face lost its demonic air and gained a refreshing look. It no longer looked eye-catching, making him look very ordinary. However, if one looked at it carefully, they would feel a sense of comfort. It was very pleasing to look at. After Xiaochen prepared everything, he led the two silver-armored warriors away. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly discovered an empty hole below the scarlet throne. Unexpectedly, it is an intact secret tunnel. Xiaochen looked at the hole and muttered, "The secret tunnel below the throne must be a whole new world. Let's go down and take a look." After Xiaochen spoke, he ordered the two silver-armored warriors to jump down. Then, he jumped down as well. This way, if there was any danger, the silver-armored warriors would be able to block it for a while. About 10 minutes after Xiaochen left, a tall and stout cultivator quickly arrived at the rubble. He had an excited expression on his face as he searched the ground for something. Occasionally, he punched, sweeping away the dust on the ground. This person was the strongest person in the Dongming province with a strong physical body, Wen Yanbin. After searching for a long time, Wen Yanbin's expression finally turned anxious. He cursed, "Damn it! I reacted very quickly already. Why did I not go and look for other secret treasures? Why did I not find the two silver-armored warriors?" Suddenly, when Yanbin glanced around and saw that the place where the throne had been was empty, he quickly rushed over. When Yanbin saw the hole below the throne, his expression became uncertain. After a while, he said sullenly, "This person must have obtained two silver-armored warriors. If I chase after him, I might not be able to defeat him. Never mind, I'll go and take a look first. I can use 10,000 kilograms of force with my full power. If I do not use my essence, I might be able to sneak attack him." Thinking of this, when Yan Bin no longer hesitated. With a resolute expression, he jumped down from the hole. Not long after, a few more groups of people arrived. Their goal was the same as when Yan Bin's. Naturally, they did not find the silver-armored warriors. Instead, they discovered a secret passage. These groups of people did not hesitate and jumped down one after another. The secret passage under the throne was definitely not an ordinary entrance. It was not just Xiao Chen who could think of it, the others could as well. Bang! Bang! Two heavy sounds rang out as the silver-armored warriors landed on the ground. Dang! 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 The instant the silver-armored warriors landed, strands of sword chi flew over and struck the silver-armored warriors. Xiao Chen quickly executed the gravity spell and slowed down his descent. Then, he looked down and saw a wide passageway. On both sides of the wall, there would be an oil lamp every few meters, illuminating the entire floor. The passageway was densely packed with iron-armored warriors. With a rough count, there were dozens of them. Fortunately, there were two silver-armored warriors opening the way first. Otherwise, if Xiao Chen had jumped down and suffered from so many attacks, he would not have had it easy. The two silver-armored warriors did their best to block the many iron-armored warriors. The sharp sword chi rampaged through the group of iron-armored warriors, giving off metallic sounds. The iron-armored warriors' sword chi shattered upon contact, they could not resist at all. However, the iron-armored warriors had higher defenses. Although the silver-armored warriors could shatter the other party's sword chi, their own sword chi could not kill them immediately. They needed 3 strands of sword chi to shatter an iron-armored warrior. The situation was somewhat anxious. Xiao Chen did not want to waste any more time. He recalled the 2 silver-armored warriors with his thoughts and decided to do it himself. After all, the iron-armored warriors were only medial-grade martial saints. Pu Ci. Xiao Chen scattered the gravity spell and quickly landed on the ground. He drew his lunar shadow saber at lightning speed and sent out a purple light, chopping an iron-armored warrior charging at him in half. Glittering Wukuei. Xiao Chen shouted and infused the state of thunder into his saber technique. The purple divine Wukuei tree branch turned into a strand of saber chi flickering with electric light. The saber chi flickering with electricity flashed through the group of iron-armored warriors in the passageway. Bang! 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 Everywhere the saber chi passed, all the iron-armored warriors were chopped in half and fell to the ground. Wukuei transforms to chi. Xiao Chen shouted again and his saber light danced. The superior grade Wukuei tree appeared from nowhere. In an instant, it turned into countless strands of purple saber chi flying around in the passageway. A series of shattering sounds rang out in the passageway. The sharp saber chi sliced through the armored warriors like they were tofu, effortlessly slicing them into countless pieces. When the saber chi scattered, the dozens of iron-armored warriors blocking the way were all smashed to pieces. They were all dead. If others saw this, they would definitely complain about how wasteful it was. Unfortunately, the combat prowess of these iron-armored warriors was nothing to Xiao Chen. He could only barely use the silver-armored warriors. What he truly wanted were the golden-armored warriors, which were as strong as peak inferior grade martial kings. Now that he was in a rush, there was no need to hold back. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and instructed the 2 silver-armored warriors to scout ahead. Then, he followed. Along the way, Xiao Chen would run into a group of iron-armored warriors every 500 meters. The state of thunder that contained holy might infused into his saber technique did not stop at all. Everywhere the saber light passed, it swept everything in its path. Killing the iron-armored warriors was as easy as slaughtering dogs, they did not stop Xiao Chen at all. Sometimes, when quality was poor, quantity could not make up for it. What was the point of having so much trash? Just like that, Xiao Chen did not stop moving. After traveling for 5 kilometers and passing through a few forks, the end of the passageway finally appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. Xiao Chen stopped. There was a large door at the end of the passageway. After spending 5 minutes dealing with the guards at the door, he immediately controlled the silver-armored warriors to push the door open. After Xiao Qin saw that there was no danger, he slowly walked in. Behind the door was a small room filled with heavy bookshelves. Xiao Qin rejoiced in his heart. This should be the Firely Hall's library. However, his expression immediately changed. The bookshelves were empty, he did not see a single secret manual. Feeling somewhat dissatisfied, Xiao Qin searched around the library. Finally, he found a book with a tattered cover at the foot of a bookshelf. Although the cover was tattered, the paper was well preserved. The contents were intact. Xiao Qian's face lit up in joy. He quickly flipped through the book. He saw the introduction to the ancient era's secret treasures. This book introduced the origins and uses of the various strong secret treasures of the ancient era. Seeing this, Xiao Qian's heart sank. This book might not be the same as the secret manual for forging secret treasures that he was looking for. Indeed, it was as he expected. As he continued reading, it was all introductions to the ancient era's secret treasures. Their uses, which owners used them, and how famous they were. However, there was no way to forge secret treasures. This was what Xiao Qian was concerned about. He shook his head and smiled bitterly, to think that I would look forward to a book used to pad the corner of a table. Never mind, I can only read it when I'm bored. Hey, this is the Scarlet Throne. The Scarlet Throne, a secret treasure refined by the ancient evil king. This secret treasure is a peak superior grade secret treasure. Xiao Qin suddenly saw a scarlet throne drawn on the page. He quickly looked at it seriously. However, after flipping through the book for a night, he discovered that someone had torn out the last chapter introducing the secret treasure. Feeling somewhat depressed, Xiao Qin said, "What's going on? I just got to the main point, and it's already gone." Chapter 321. Xiao Qin casually flipped through the pages of the book. Suddenly, a map fell out of the book. Xiao Qin felt it was strange as he picked it up. He discovered that it was a map of the Firely sect branch. Xiao Qian's depressed expression disappeared. He smiled and said, unexpectedly, "There is a map inside. Let me find where the refining room is." The refining room is the true location of the Firely sect's treasures. After Xiao Qin confirmed his location, he looked around quickly, searching for the refining room. He discovered that the refining room was a kilometer northeast of him. However, that was a straight line distance. According to the directions on the map, he would have to walk another 5 kilometers after making a few turns. Xiao Qin put away the map and placed the book introducing secret treasures into his universe ring. This book was still useful after all. He could keep it in case he needed it in the future. After confirming the direction, Xiao Qin punched the wall in front of him. When 15,000 kilograms of force struck it, a human-shaped hole appeared in the thick wall. After walking another 5 kilometers, Xiao Qin no longer had the patience to do so. Furthermore, time waited for no man. If someone got ahead of him in the ancient remnant, he might not be able to obtain anything. Since the distance was only a kilometer, he would use his fist to blast a path out. As Xiao Qin used his fist to open a path, Wen Yanbin followed behind him. When he saw the large number of iron-armored warriors scattered on the ground, he had an astonished expression. This is clearly not the work of the silver-armored warriors. Instead, it is this person's true strength. Is it right for me to follow him? At this moment, Xiao Qin hesitated for the first time. However, he destroyed so many iron-armored warriors. He must have exhausted some of his strength. I am not exhausted at all. My aura is still at its peak. If I attack him, I have a high chance of victory. When Yanbin found an excuse in his heart. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes as he continued to follow. Xiao Qin, who was focused on opening a path for himself, did not know that a group of people had already followed him. However, even if he knew, he would not care too much. It would be fine as long as he remained cautious. Behind him, Two silver-armored warriors completely covered the hole in his back. He only had to worry about the danger in front of him. Boom! When the last wall was broken, Xiaochen finally arrived at the refining room. When the huge refining room appeared before his eyes, Xiaochen's gaze immediately turned grave. On the floor of the artifact refining room, there were various artifacts covered in dust, but with a glance, one could tell that most of them were incomplete and not of much use. In the middle of the refining room, there was a huge three-legged cauldron with dragons and phoenixes carved on it. The legendary Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. On top of the cauldron, there were 3 balls of white flames. They were bone-chilling and floated strangely above the cauldron. They did not emit any light. Were these the legendary lunar flames? However, this was not the reason why Xiaochen's gaze turned grave. Instead, it was because someone had rushed into the refinery ahead of him. The commotion Xiaochen had had. The other party had noticed him. And he immediately. Du Hao. After Xiaochen clearly saw the other party's appearance, he exclaimed in astonishment. Didn't he go to chase after Chu Chaoyun? Why is he here? The combat techniques that this person displayed in the fight with the Scarlet Flame Chief left a deep impression on Xiaochen. Although the other party was only a superior-grade martial saint and had not reached the peak, Xiaochen did not dare to underestimate this person. Compared to some high-profile people, this person's character and martial techniques belonged to the type that would erupt in silence. His strength could not be underestimated. Otherwise, Duan would not have chosen this person to help kill the Scarlet Flame Chief. Du Hao raised his head and looked at Xiaochen. His calm face revealed a grave expression. He said, "Are you here for the Lunar True Flame and the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron as well? Could it be that the Lunar True Flame and the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron are real?" Based on the words of this person, it seems like he understands them very well. There is no harm in getting some information from him first. Xiaochen slowly walked forward and smiled softly. Could it be that the Lunar True Flame and the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron are real? Du Hao's heart skipped a beat. He instantly knew that Xiaochen did not know the origins of the Lunar True Flame. However, there was no harm in telling him. Perhaps he could avoid an unnecessary fight. Naturally, it is impossible for it to be real. The Dragon Phoenix Cauldrons in the Firely Sex Branch Hall are all fakes. However, they are necessary to refine secret treasures. The Lunar True Flames are only 4 strands that were separated from the lunar origin source. Your purple flame is of the Yang attribute. The Lunar True Flame is an extreme Yin flame. It is useless to you. The Dragon Phoenix Cauldron is a fake. I believe it is useless to you as well. You can have all the secret treasures on the ground. I only want the cauldron and the flame. What do you think? Du Hao suggested softly as he looked at Xiaochen. Although many of the secret treasures on the ground were damaged, there were so many of them. It would not be difficult to find a few complete secret treasures. In the eyes of a normal person, choosing the secret treasures was more worthwhile. After all, as long as the secret treasures were not badly damaged, they could still be sold for some spirit stones. Xiaochen smiled faintly. What if I make the same choice as you? When Du Hao heard this, he laughed softly. He said in a sullen voice, I already guessed your choice. In that case, we can only fight. After Du Hao spoke, he pushed off the ground and leaped into the air. He passed through the tall Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and twisted his waist in midair. Then, he kicked out with his right leg. When Du Hao kicked out, a strong wind blew. There was a loud crack in the air. Xiaochen's expression did not change. He was not afraid. When it came to physical strength, he had never been afraid of anything. Xiaochen quickly stepped forward with his right foot and circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. The image of a dragon and tiger surrounded his body. There was a whistling sound as he clenched his right fist and punched the incoming kick. Boom! When the fist and leg collided, there was a loud explosion. A horrifying shockwave swept past the two of them, blowing away all the damaged secret treasures on the ground. Du Hao's body quickly spun around in the air. He did not land on the ground. Instead, he kicked out with an even faster speed, piercing through the air in his way. Interesting. Right now, my ferocious tiger leaving the mountains can already achieve close to 40,000 kilograms of force. My opponent's physical strength is, at most, 1 grade higher than Wen Yanbin's. There is still a significant gap between us. Logically speaking, after receiving my punch, you should be knocked down from the sky. However, my opponent seems to have grasped an extremely profound technique to deflect force. Not only did he neutralize my force, but he also used my force when he spun around. Xiaoqin merged his own force together and kicked out even more ferociously. In that case, let's see how long your deflecting techniques can last. Xiaoqin shouted and shifted his feet, moving to the side. Xiaoqin moved in a semicircle and dodged Du Hao's sharp kick. Then, he arrived at Du Hao's side and punched at Du Hao's waist. Du Hao's expression remained calm as he looked at the position where Xiaoqin instantly moved. He quickly withdrew his move and somersaulted in the air. Then, he increased the force of his earlier kick by 10%. Du Hao's right leg was like an upside-down hook as it chopped down at Xiaoqian's head. Xiaoqian's punch missed, causing the air to tremble and form ripples. At this moment, Xiaoqin could no longer dodge. He could only defend. He pulled back his right leg and crossed his arms above his head. Bang! The huge force was like a small mountain pressing down. Xiaoqin did not move at all. However, the stone floor could not withstand this horrifying pressure. The stone floor shattered and pieces of the floor flew into the air, heading for the ceiling of the refining room. Du Hao quickly retracted his leg in midair and somersaulted backwards. Xiaoqin shouted explosively and all the energy in his body trembled. The surrounding floorboards immediately shattered with a loud rumble. Dragon hisses, tiger roars. A tiger and a dragon flew out from behind Xiaoqin. The tiger's roar and the dragon's roar accompanied each other, raising their auras. The moment Du Hao landed, Xiaoqian's fist had already arrived in front of his face, not giving him any chance to dodge. Hu Qi. Du Hao took a step back at lightning speed. Then, he loosened his fingers and pressed them against Xiaoqian's wrist. Xiaoqian's peak punch contained 25,000 kilograms of force. When it flew over, it was like a large truck moving at high speed. Its speed and force were both at their peak. However, when Du Hao's palm strike landed on Xiaoqian's wrist, it easily pushed away this roaring punch. In an instant, the wind from Xiaoqian's fist deviated. This was the move that Du Hao used to deal with the Scarlet Flame Chief. When he used it on Xiaoqian, it was unexpectedly effective. Xiaoqian immediately felt a force pulling him forward. Because the force was too ferocious, he could not stop in time. Du Hao smacked away Xiaoqian's attack with his palm. Then, his body slid gently and nimbly arrived behind Xiaoqian. He looked at Xiaoqian, who could not stop in time. Du Hao clenched his right hand tightly and a horrifying force burst out from his palm. Then, he punched at Xiaoqian's back without hesitation. If this punch landed, Xiaoqian might end up like the Scarlet Flame Chief. At the critical moment, Xiaoqian remained calm. His thoughts were highly focused, searching for a way to break out of this situation. Xiaoqian's forward charge was too ferocious. Regardless of whether he turned around or moved to the side, it would be problematic. Before he could do anything, he would be struck by the other party's fist. Xiaoqian could not see how strong Du Hao's punch was. However, he was sure that it was no less than 15,000 kilograms of force. Boom! At the critical moment, Xiaoqian punched the ground ferociously. Boom! 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 A horrifying force of 25,000 kilograms of force smashed into the ground. It was like a mountain had landed on the ground. The entire refinery started to shake uncontrollably. The floorboards around Xiaoqian immediately shattered and countless rocks flew into the air. The rocks happened to block Du Hao's path. Bang! Du Hao easily smashed all the rocks into dust, scattering them in the air. The rock successfully helped Xiao Chen block for a breath of time. Although the time was short, Xiao Chen, who had already neutralized the force, was sufficient to dodge Du Hao's attack. Windwalk Shoes, Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring Art, Blue Dragon Tail Whip. Xiao Chen instantly activated the Windwalk Shoes and executed the Azure Dragon Cloud Soaring Art. He was like a flood dragon moving gently from his original spot. He moved in a purple arc and appeared 200 meters away in an instant. Chapter 322. Boom! Xiao Chen's figure had just disappeared when Du Hao smashed the floor with his fist. He rushed over, but he only managed to shatter an afterimage. In the end, his punch missed. Xiao Chen turned around and took out the lunar shadow saber from the universe ring. When he saw Du Hao walk out from the dust, he slowly placed his right hand on the saber hilt. Xiao Chen had to admit that Du Hao's close combat skills far surpassed Xiao Chen's. Out of all the people Xiao Chen had seen, only Mu Heng, who used his physical body to comprehend the saber Dao, could compare to Du Hao. However, Xiao Chen's true strength lay in the saber and not in close combat. Xiao Chen only wanted to experience different martial techniques by fighting with him. Take the secret treasures on the ground and leave. After I draw my saber, you will no longer have a chance, Xiao Chen said softly. There was no grudge between the two of them, there was no need for them to fight to the death. The corner of Du Hao's lips curled up. He smiled coldly, what big words. I want to see how you will not give me a chance. Traceless autumn water. After Du Hao spoke, he shouted and leaped into the air. He quickly circled around Xiao Chen. Du Hao was like a stream of autumn water as he moved quickly in the air, creating countless afterimages. When the afterimages merged, they looked like a blurry river with gentle ripples. So, he has comprehended the state of water. No wonder he is so confident, Xiao Chen thought to himself. However, this state has just been formed. It is far inferior to Duanmuking, Murong Chong, and the others. Before his state of thunder infused with holy might, how could it stand a chance? Boom! An earth-shattering clap of thunder suddenly rang out in the refining room. The moment the thunder rang out, the rippling river immediately began to ripple out of Du Hao's control. Ka Xie. The instant the thunder roared, Xiao Chen quickly drew the lunar shadow saber. It was like a bolt of lightning flashing by. The purple saber chi struck Du Hao, whose state was suppressed. Bang! A horrifying wound was left on Du Hao's chest as he fell heavily to the ground. His face was filled with disbelief. His opponent had actually completely suppressed his state. As long as it could have been used, it would have definitely been able to turn the situation around, but it had collapsed midway. It was truly hateful. Xiao Chen took light steps and sheathed the lunar shadow saber. He did not even look at Du Hao as he headed for the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and the lunar true flame in the refining room. Du Hao, who was on the ground, bandaged the wounds on his body. He looked at Xiao Chen and said coldly, even if you defeat me, you will not be able to obtain the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and the lunar true flame. Chu Chaoyun has subdued the golden armored warrior. He is not someone you can deal with. The 9 of us were scattered by him. Once he finds this place, you definitely won't stand a chance. It was easy to understand the mentality of such a person. If they could not obtain something, they would not want others to obtain it. Hence, even if they failed, they would use this self-deceiving reason to console themselves. Xiao Chen's gaze was fixed on the 4 clumps of lunar true flame. He said indifferently without even turning his head, that is not something for you to worry about. When Du Hao saw that Xiao Chen was ignoring him, he snorted coldly. He found several broken secret treasures on the ground and left the refining room the way he came. The wound on Xiao Chen's chest contained the state of thunder. However, the wound could not heal quickly. His fortuitous encounters in the fiery sect remnant had come to an end here. Xiao Chen stared at the 4 clumps of white flames floating above the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. The flames did not have any light, they were pale white. Each clump of flames was about the size of a fist. They floated quietly above the mouth of the cauldron. When the wind blew, they swayed gently. Ao Jiao once told Xiao Chen that there were 4 kinds of strange flames in the world: human flame, ghost flame, dragon flame, and dragon flame. There were 2 types of ghost flame. One was in the profound Yin cave, and the other was in the 9 layers of hell. Xiao Chen suspected that the lunar true flame might be the ghost flame in the profound Yin cave. The possibility of it being the lunar true flame was very high. The 4 clumps of white flames before Xiao Chen were clearly rootless flames. Hence, they did not contain the lunar origin flame. However, they still stubbornly persisted for thousands of years. If no one interfered with them, they would continue to exist. The life force of these flames was very strong. Everyone knew that the Fire-Li sect used the lunar true flame and the dragon phoenix cauldron to refine secret treasures. After the ancient era, only the Fire-Li sect had the ability to refine secret treasures. It was very likely because of these 2 items. Xiao Chen had always been very interested in refining secret treasures. Naturally, he could not let go of the dragon phoenix cauldron and the lunar true flame before him. Although they were not the real deal, they were still very valuable. However, Xiao Chen was placed in a difficult position as to how to preserve the 4 clumps of lunar true flame. The cauldron was easy to deal with, he could just store it in the universe ring. However, he could not store pure energy in the universe ring. That would break the balance of the formation lines. A magic treasure to store the flames would require a special refinement. If it were a yang attribute flame, Xiao Chen could just use the purple thunder true fire to swallow it up. However, the lunar true flame was an extreme yin flame. It was difficult to merge yin and yang. After thinking for a long time, Xiao Chen sent out his spiritual sense from his sea of consciousness. He decided to figure out the nature of this white flame first. His spiritual sense turned into a thin film and wrapped around the flame. Xiao Chen carefully examined the internal structure of the flame. Before Xiao Chen could react, the flame wrapped by his spiritual sense passed through the blue strip of cloth on his forehead and entered his sea of consciousness. Within the vast and boundless sea of consciousness, a strand of white flame floated quietly beside the scarlet throne. It was the dim white flame. Xiao Chen was startled. Then, he revealed a joyful expression. He said softly, "Could it be that the sea of consciousness has the ability to store flames? Let me see if I can summon it out." Xiao Chen closed his eyes and sensed the white flame in his sea of consciousness. With a thought, the flame immediately flew out from the mark on his forehead. With another thought, the flame returned with a "so" sound. This time, there was no spiritual sense wrapped around it. The blue strip of cloth on his forehead was burned in half by the flame and could not be used. Naturally, Xiao Chen did not care about such a small matter. He immediately took action and placed the other 3 clumps of white flame into his sea of consciousness. After all the flames were stored in his sea of consciousness, Xiao Chen took out another blue strip of cloth and tied it around his forehead. Boom! Just as Xiao Chen tied the cloth, a loud shout came from behind him. A stout figure quickly leaped over from behind and punched at the unprepared Xiao Chen. The fist wind vibrated in the air, forming a ferocious shockwave. As it rubbed against the air, it gave off a piercing sonic boom. The attack was so fast that it did not give Xiao Chen any time to dodge or draw his saber. Xiao Chen's expression turned cold, and all the bones in his body crackled. Then, he turned around and punched. Bang! The sound of bones breaking resounded. When Yan Bin, who had launched the sneak attack, fell to the ground and cried out in pain. His entire right hand had turned into a pile of meat paste, swaying weakly on the ground. When Yan Bin's right hand was completely crippled, there was no chance of recovery. He revealed a horrified expression on his pained face. When Yan Bin had not expected that his full-powered strike, which contained close to 20,000 kilograms of force and a sneak attack that he had prepared for a long time, would lose to his opponent in one move. Just as when Yan Bin was about to get up and flee, 2 swords were placed on his neck. It was Xiao Chen controlling the silver-armored warrior, preventing him from escaping. Don't kill me. My arm is crippled. I am already half a cripple, Wen Yanbin begged bitterly. Xiaoqin said coldly, cripple your left hand and you can scram. When Wen Yanbin heard this, he was stunned. Crippling both hands would make him a cripple. The cultivation that he had painstakingly cultivated for more than 10 years would have to bid farewell to the path of cultivation. When Wen Yanbin saw Xiaoqian's impatient expression, he revealed a decisive expression. He circulated his essence to his left hand and broke all the meridians in his arm. When Xiaoqian saw the situation, he ignored Wen Yanbin. He directed the silver-armored warrior to release its sword. From the moment Xiaoqian launched the sneak attack, he should have been prepared for the worst. Dong! 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 The 10-odd cultivators who had followed Xiaoqian to the passageway all rushed over. They happened to see Wen Yanbin's arms crippled. They all revealed astonished expressions. Wen Yanbin, why are his arms crippled? It seems like he crippled his left arm himself. He is one of the few experts in Dongming province. Who could have forced him to such a state? Look at the wounds on his right arm. It is clear that he was completely suppressed by his opponent's physical strength in a contest of physical strength. Who exactly is this strong? When they shifted their gazes to Xiaoqian, who was in the refinery, everyone immediately stopped talking, as the answer was obvious. They had to quickly move the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron away. Otherwise, when Duamuking and the others arrived, it would be difficult to move the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron away. There are actually complete secret treasures on the ground. Furthermore, there are quite a few of them. We have made a killing this time. Ha ha! The one in the middle seems to be the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. That is definitely the most valuable. It is a necessity for refining secret treasures. After a while, everyone discovered the situation in the refinery. All of them cried out excitedly. Unexpectedly, they found several complete secret treasures among the pile of shattered secret treasures. Normally, they would rarely see secret treasures. However, they managed to find quite a few of them. The few of them did not hesitate to rush to the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. When Xiaoqian saw the situation, his expression changed. He pushed off the ground and leaped into the air, landing firmly on the mouth of the cauldron. Ka-xie. The snow-white lunar shadow saber was drawn with a huang-dang sound. Killing chi was released from his entire body as Xiaoqian looked at the crowd below expressionlessly. Yi-chen, what are you trying to do? Quickly come down. You should have already taken away the lunar true flame in the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Don't be so greedy and think about taking the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron away. That's right. Although you are strong, you are definitely not a match for all of us. When the people below saw Xiaoqian standing on the mouth of the cauldron, they all started to berate him. The people who could participate in this operation were not weak. When Yanbin's tragic ending did not scare them away, no matter how strong Xiaoqian was. The people present believed that even if they had the numbers, Xiaoqian would not be a match for them. Stop speaking nonsense with him. Let's attack together and kill this fellow who does not know his limits. Coincidentally, we can split the secret treasures and the lunar true flame on him. Chapter 323. The moment Xiaoqian spoke, a few bold and skilled people took the lead to attack. Soon, 10 odd outstanding talents followed suit. All sorts of resplendent sword chi and saber chi merged with the killing chi and surged over from all directions. Xiaoqian's lips curled up into a cold smile. He said sullenly, how reckless. If you are not strong enough, what is the point of having numbers? Wukuei transforms to chi. Xiaoqian shouted, and the ancient divine Wukuei tree appeared from nowhere. Then, it turned into strands of dense purple saber chi and scattered into the surroundings. Dang! 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 The purple saber chi clashed with the various colored sword chi and saber chi from the crowd below, giving off loud bangs. The extremely dense sword chi was extremely powerful. The incredibly dense sword chi shattered most of the sword chi in an instant. However, its momentum did not decrease as it continued towards the crowd with electric light. A few strands of sword chi managed to escape the net. However, Xiaochen brandished his saber and flickered with saber light, easily blocking these saber chi. Xiaochen stood above the cauldron, not moving at all. He appeared very relaxed. The saber technique that contained a state was not something these people could block. The horrifying and dense purple saber chi immediately disrupted everyone's formation. The sword chi tore through several people's protective essence. Horrifying wounds appeared on their bodies, causing them to bleed profusely. Xiaochen frowned slightly. His sharp spiritual sense detected 3 people flying over quickly from behind. They emitted killing chi and pointed their weapons at his back. Chi breaks Wukue. The remnant purple chi in the air gathered on the snow-white lunar shadow saber. Xiaochen turned around and chopped at lightning speed. Ka xie. Ka xie. Ka xie. 3 melodious sounds rang out. The weapons of the 3 people were broken by Xiaochen's extremely dense saber. The energy gathered on the saber surged endlessly. Xiaochen shouted and the purple glazed saber exploded. As the shockwave surged, the 3 of them turned pale. They vomited a mouthful of blood and were sent flying. Xiaochen held his saber and stood there proudly. His expression was incomparably grave and stern. He said indifferently, "You can pick up the secret treasures on the ground. However, don't have any designs on the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Otherwise, you will have to ask the saber in my hand first." The domineering blade directly shocked everyone in the arena. They all stopped what they were doing, and for a moment, the arena was extremely quiet. How arrogant! I, Nanling Hong Yundu, want to see how strong you are. A disdainful voice rang out from the crowd. A cultivator in white robes holding a 7-foot-long sword flew out from the crowd. His sword danced, creating a series of light and shadows. Hong Yundu's body fluttered about in the air. His movements were erratic, making it hard for others to catch him. In the blink of an eye, he turned around and sent out over 100 sword lights at Xiaochen. White clouds appeared around him. This person had comprehended the state of clouds. No wonder his sword technique was so erratic. It had a trace of Murong Chang's charm from back then. Xiaochen's expression did not change. Electric light flickered around his body, illuminating the huge refinery. Occasionally, electricity crackled in the air. Seeing the thousands of sword lights in front of him, Xiaochen's expression did not change. He held his saber in front of him to protect himself as he attacked unhurriedly. At first, Xiaochen could still be seen clearly. However, after a while, he slowly sped up. Then, he became so fast that no one could even see his afterimages. Dang! 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 The sounds of weapons clashing resounded. Occasionally, sword chi and saber chi clashed around Xiaochen. They gave off intense explosions, causing the air to churn. Amid the thousands of clouds, Hong Yundu's figure was still as erratic as before. However, his expression became increasingly anxious. This was because he discovered that, at some point in time, the one who originally had the initiative to attack had become Xiaochen's. Now, he had to defend. Xiaochen was clearly standing where he was, not moving a single step. However, even though he moved later, he arrived first, completely suppressing Hong Yundu's aura. As the other party's saber approached, Hong Yundu felt that it was even more difficult to block. Sweat dripped down Hong Yundu's face. His originally erratic figure slowly revealed an opening. Break! A bright light suddenly shot out from Xiaochen's eyes. He shouted and the tip of his saber released a resplendent electric light. Xiaochen twisted his waist and stabbed out with his saber. The strong force in the electric light knocked aside the sword Hong Yundu used to block with just a touch. The saber's momentum did not decrease as it easily broke through Hong Yundu's protective essence and left a huge wound on his chest. Hong Yundu cried out miserably and fell from the sky. He crashed heavily to the ground, his complexion extremely pale. Nanling Province's Hong Yundu is a peak superior grade martial saint. He is quite famous in Nanling Province. Unexpectedly, he does not even have the strength to force Yichen back, someone below exclaimed in a soft voice. We three brothers want this dragon phoenix cauldron. Brat from the heavenly saber pavilion, get down. Three youths walked out from another passageway in the refinery. The three of them all used different weapons. The one in the middle had a sword at his waist, the one on the left had a large saber on his back, and the one on the right held a folding fan. These three are the heirs of the imperial capital's Luo clan. They are brothers. The Luo clan is very powerful in the imperial capital. It looks like they are determined to obtain this dragon phoenix cauldron. However, weren't the three of them chasing after Chu Chaoyun earlier? Why are they all back? Who knows? Let's just watch from the sidelines first. This Yichen must have used his full strength from the start. He must have exhausted a significant amount of essence. The three Luo clan brothers quickly walked forward. When they were 100 meters away from the dragon phoenix cauldron, the third brother of the Luo clan revealed a sinister smile. He said, I hate it when people look down on me from above. Scram down. After he spoke, he kicked the air at the 10-meter-tall dragon phoenix cauldron. A strong wind blew. The kick contained a horrifying force. In the blink of an eye, it landed on the cauldron. There was a dull sound in the refinery. Wang! 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 The sound was deafening, reverberating in everyone's ears. The dragon phoenix cauldron trembled continuously. However, the three legs of the cauldron did not move at all. On the contrary, the third brother of the Luo clan felt his legs go numb from the rebound of his kick. He muttered, that's impossible. A casual kick of mine can even shatter a city wall. How can this lousy cauldron not move at all? When the third brother of the Luo clan saw Xiao Qin on the cauldron, he thought to himself, it must be this brat's doing. He said ferociously, again. I don't believe I cannot kick you down. The third brother of the Luo clan shouted and spun his body 180 degrees. He kicked out with his leg, causing the air to tremble. Xiao Chen's expression suddenly changed. He raised his right leg and stomped heavily on the mouth of the cauldron. Rumble. The three legs of the dragon phoenix cauldron pierced into the ground of the refinery. In an instant, it completely sank into the ground. A boundless force rose up from the ground. The shattered pieces of the floor soared into the air. They circled around the dragon phoenix cauldron and headed for the ceiling. The three Luo clan brothers had just rushed over. Before they could do anything, they were pulled into the air by the force from the ground. Bang! Xiao Chen's left hand, which was holding the scabbard, moved quickly. The tip of the scabbard pierced through countless rocks and struck this person's chest. The third son of the Luo clan vomited a mouthful of blood as his body flew through the air. His face was frighteningly pale. His internal organs had been severely injured. Old third. The Luo family's eldest brother and second brother cried out in alarm and caught the Luo family's third brother. They had never imagined that in just one move, he would be seriously injured by Xiao Qin. How dare you injure my third brother? No one can save you today. The two of them drew their weapons, and the wind blew under their feet. Their killing intent soared to the sky as they charged at Xiao Qin. Wukuei shakes the heavens. Xiao Qin could not be bothered to waste his time on this person. He immediately executed the killing move of the Wukuei saber technique. The ancient divine Wukuei tree grew rapidly in the air. Like a proud and aloof mountain, it contained the power of lightning and Xiao Chen's state of thunder as it descended from the sky. Bang! Before absolute power, the two of them could not resist at all. The towering tree landed on their heads and crashed down. The two of them were smashed into the rocks on the ground. The berserk lightning attributed essence rampaged through their bodies, throwing their essence into chaos. Xiao Qin easily defeated the three Luo clan brothers. This caused the crowd, who were originally prepared to take advantage of the situation, to be horrified. The 10 odd cultivators who had followed Xiao Qin to open up a path gave up on obtaining the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Xiao Qin completely gave up on the idea of obtaining the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and retreated far away. On the other hand, people continuously came to challenge Xiao Qin at Du Hao's entrance. Xiao Qin did not show any fear. He held his saber in front of him as his long hair fluttered in the wind. He stood proudly on the cauldron and defeated all the people who came to challenge him. Xiao Qin stood on the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and held his saber with one hand. He looked coldly and emotionlessly at the various outstanding talents who were eyeing the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Xiao Qin said softly, "I will say it again. You can all pick up the secret treasures on the ground. This Dragon Phoenix Cauldron is mine." Of the 50-odd people who came to the Fire Li sect remnants, aside from the few who chased after Chu Chaoyun, the other 50-odd people had already gathered here. The Dragon Phoenix Cauldron was a necessity for crafting secret treasures. The various outstanding talents here all had a huge faction behind them. If they grasped the method of crafting secret treasures, it would be a great help to their clan's strength. This cauldron was very important to them. This was also why these people charged at Xiao Qin one after another. Even though they were defeated one by one, they still refused to give up. It looks like I really have to start a massacre, Xiao Qin thought to himself. Originally, he planned to store the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron in his universe ring and activate the Windwalk shoes to leave this place. However, he discovered that he could not store the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron in his universe ring. This made Xiao Qin even more determined to take the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron away. Secret treasures could be stored in the universe ring. If it could not be stored, it could only mean that the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron also contained the power of space and rejected the space of the universe ring. Given this, it proved that although this Dragon Phoenix Cauldron was a fake, it still had value. The legend might very well be true. Damn it! Attack together! I don't believe that his essence is inexhaustible. After we kill him, we will decide who the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron belongs to, Hong Yundu, who was defeated by Xiao Qin earlier, said ruthlessly. Chapter 324. Someone had said the same thing before, and it had been very effective. At that time, most of the people had attacked immediately. However, after they saw Xiao Qian's strength this time, many people started to retreat. There were very few who responded. Xiao Qian's gaze was like lightning as he glared at Hong Yundu. If you want to kill me, I'll start with you first. Hu Qi. Activating the Windwalk shoes, Xiao Qin leaped down from the cauldron. His speed instantly reached the speed of sound. He silently merged with the wind and arrived before Hong Yundu in an instant. Hong Yundu was startled and quickly retreated. However, Xiao Qin did not give him a chance to do so. He shouted and executed the roaming dragon's 9 transformations. 9 cool breezes blew and Xiao Qian's body split into 9, surrounding Hong Yundu. When the clear wind chop was executed, Xiao Qian's killing chi vanished completely. Hong Yundu looked up and saw Xiao Qian's figures everywhere. Furthermore, he could no longer find the lunar shadow saber in his hand. When the cool breeze blew, Hong Yundu did not feel any killing chi. Instead, he felt a sense of comfort. However, Hong Yundu felt like he had fallen into a deep abyss. Cold sweat flowed down his back continuously. There was clearly great danger, but Hong Yundu could not sense any killing chi. This feeling was too strange. It made his mind flustered and he could not think of any countermeasures. Xiao Qin did not give Hong Yundu too much time to think. The instant the clear wind chop was executed, 9 figures quickly flew at Hong Yundu. Suddenly, 9 ethereal saber lights lit up at the same time. It was like they had appeared from nowhere. The killing chi that had disappeared earlier now pressed over with a mountain-toppling force. Hong Yundu did his best and caught hold of 2 strands of saber chi. Then, he quickly swung his sword to block. Pu Ci. On his chest, a few strands of saber chi pierced through his protective essence, leaving behind a few horrifying wounds. He was injured by the saber chi. Hong Yunda's movements immediately slowed down. He could no longer block the 2 strands of saber chi that he had caught. Boom! When all 9 of Xiao Chen's figures merged together, 9 bloody holes appeared on Hong Yunda's chest. Blood spurted out of the holes, but Hong Yunda still maintained his sword stance. Hong Yunda's eyes were wide open as he fell down powerlessly. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The surroundings were silent. Those who had been tempted to make a move had completely stopped their thoughts. Hong Yunda had just shouted when he was killed by Xiao Chen. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Moreover, he had only used one move. This meant that Xiao Chen had been holding back earlier. Now, he was no longer holding back. This was a warning to them not to act rashly. However, there were still a few bold people who wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to store the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron in their spatial rings. However, they discovered that their spatial rings rejected it, they could not store it at all. The few of them hardened their hearts and worked together to lift the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. They prepared to move it out. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and flew up, sticking close to the ground. With the help of the windwalk shoes, he instantly arrived below the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Xiao Chen kicked the cauldron, and the huge Dragon Phoenix Cauldron left their hands, flying towards the ceiling above them. When the few of them saw the situation, they quickly leaped up, wanting to snatch the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron back. Naturally, Xiao Chen would not give them this opportunity. Xiao Chen moved through the air like a soaring dragon. As he flew up and down, purple saber lights entangled the few of them. They could only give up on the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and deal with Xiao Chen's attacks first. Dang! 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 The clanging of weapons resounded in the air. After a while, a few miserable cries rang out. The few people fighting over the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron fell from the sky. Boom! The Dragon Phoenix Cauldron that Xiao Chen kicked away actually broke through the ceiling. Large pieces of rock fell from above. Xiao Chen looked up and his eyes lit up. The ceiling actually broke through. I should make use of this opportunity to leave this place. Xiao Chen easily caught the falling Dragon Phoenix Cauldron with one hand. Then, he controlled the 2 silver-armored warriors below to leap into the air. He gently touched the universe ring and sent the 2 combat puppets into it. Everything was ready. Just as Xiao Chen was preparing to ram into the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, Duan Muking, Ji Changkong, and the others arrived at the refinery. Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. It is actually the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. In that case, leave it behind. Ji Changkong and the others exclaimed in pleasant surprise when they saw the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron in Xiao Chen's hands. The few of them leaped into the air and charged at Xiao Chen without hesitation. Xiao Chen's expression sank. The strength of these people was not something the cultivators from earlier could compare to. Every one of them had comprehended their own state. Their talent and cultivation were all demonic. They could be said to be geniuses among geniuses. No matter where they were in the great Qin nation, they would be dragons and phoenixes among men. However, when Xiao Chen did not see Chu Chaoyun, he relaxed a little. Otherwise, he might really lose this Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. The fierce flame in Xiao Chen's right eye started to burn continuously. When Xiao Chen saw the imposing auras of the few people, he shouted and a ferocious purple flame immediately spewed out. After that, Xiao Chen no longer cared about these things. The purple thunder true fire had not fully condensed and could not injure them. However, it would not be a problem to block them for a while. Xiao Chen controlled the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron with his right hand and spun it around, smashing it violently against the ceiling. Bang! With the full force of the collision, the crack that appeared earlier immediately tore open. Xiao Chen grabbed the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and quickly squeezed his way out. After him. We cannot let him leave just like that. Chu Chaoyun already took away the secret manual for forging secret treasures. If this fellow takes away the dragon phoenix cauldron, we will not be able to obtain anything. The few of them used all sorts of methods to neutralize the purple flame. When they saw Xiao Qin making his way out, they quickly chased after him. The arrival of Duanmuking and the others had completely dispelled the idea of fighting over the dragon phoenix cauldron. Even if they killed Xiao Qin, there were still people like Duanmuking and Ji Changkong, who were no weaker than Xiao Qin. To them, they still did not stand much of a chance. They might as well focus on the pile of secret treasures on the ground. If they could find a few complete secret treasures, they would have made a huge profit on this trip. Xiao Qin took out the map and discovered that he was only about a kilometer away from the main hall. Of course, that was only in a straight line. After Xiao Qin determined the direction, he raised the cauldron and prepared to charge forward in a straight line. Bang! 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 The high walls in front of Xiao Qin were easily smashed apart by Xiao Qin. Then, he quickly advanced forward. The windwalk shoes continued to be activated. Xiao Qin executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits and dodged the attacks of the people behind him. As he was holding the dragon phoenix cauldron, he could not shake them off. Yi Chen, quickly put down the dragon phoenix cauldron. Otherwise, even if you can walk out, the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace will not let you out. The dragon phoenix cauldron is useless to you. If you hand it over to us, we will definitely exchange it for something else. We will not let you suffer a loss. When the few of them saw Xiao Qin able to run very fast while holding the dragon phoenix cauldron, they were astonished. The dragon phoenix cauldron was huge. It was at least 500 kilograms heavy. However, when Xiao Qin lifted it, it was like a piece of wood. Not only was it very easy, but Xiao Qin's speed did not decrease at all. Furthermore, he could easily dodge the attacks. When the few of them attacked, the group was forced to use psychological warfare. Xiao Qin found it funny. He did not need the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace. He could leave the Ink Mountain range with his own strength. The dragon phoenix cauldron was very important to Xiao Qin. Not only did it concern the refinement of secret treasures, but it also concerned the damaged secret treasures in his possession. If Xiao Qin wanted to recover completely, he placed his hopes on this dragon phoenix cauldron. There was no reason for him to give it up. Xiao Qin swallowed a qi returning pill and used the cauldron to smash another wall in front of him. Then, he quickly leaped forward. After 7 or 8 minutes, not only did the people behind Xiao Qin not close the distance, but they were even left behind by Xiao Qin. With a heaven-ranked movement technique and the windwalk shoes, with Xiao Qin's current speed, those of the same generation who had not learned a heaven-ranked movement technique would have to comprehend the state of wind to great perfection in order to catch up to him. Clearly, there was no such person behind Xiao Qin. It was only a matter of time before he left them behind. After a while, Xiao Qin could no longer hear the commotion behind him. He had already arrived at the ruined main hall. As long as he passed through the doors, Xiao Qin would be able to leave this place safely. A faint smile could not help but appear on Xiao Qin's face. However, the moment he walked out of the bronze doors, the smile on Xiao Qin's face froze. A golden combat puppet stood at the exit in front. It held a golden sword in its hand and stood on the ground with a monstrous aura. The aura that only a peak inferior grade martial king could have was radiating from its body. Beside the golden-armored warrior was Chu Chaoyun, who wore alternating blue and white robes and had a 2-meter-long sword on his back. He smiled at Xiao Qin and said, "Take the initiative. Put down the dragon phoenix cauldron and you can leave. I will give you 1,000 medial-grade spirit stones." Xiao Qin slowly placed the dragon phoenix cauldron in his hand on the ground. He had not expected Chu Chaoyun to block the exit. This move was truly brilliant. There was only one path to the Firely sect remnant. If one wanted to return to the Ink Forest, they had to pass through the passage under the profound ice flower. No matter who obtained the dragon phoenix cauldron, they would not be able to avoid passing through this place. After a series of battles and running, their essence would definitely be exhausted. Chu Chaoyun was waiting for his prey. He would be in his best condition to deal with a weakened opponent. This was a surefire opportunity. Chu Chaoyun muttered to himself for a while before continuing, I already know how the Fire-Li sect refines secret treasures. Right now, we are only lacking the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and the Lunar True Flame. I have my ways to obtain the Lunar True Flame. This Dragon Phoenix Cauldron is somewhat difficult to deal with. The original one has already disappeared. As for the number of fakes, including the one in your hands, there are already 3. When Xiao Chen heard this, his eyes filled with doubt. He felt that Chu Chaoyun's understanding of the Fire-Li sect was a little too detailed. During the middle period of the Tianwu dynasty, the Fire-Li sect was destroyed by a mysterious power overnight. No one knew how the Fire-Li sect, which was at its peak, could be destroyed so easily. The Fire-Li sect became an unsolved mystery in the continent. What was even more strange was that a lot of information about the Fire-Li sect seemed to have been erased from the continent by a mysterious power. Now, what everyone knew about the Fire-Li sect was only passed down through word of mouth. There were only a few words about it. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and said indifferently, just give up. I will not hand the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron to you. I do not lack medial-grade spirit stones. You are afraid that after Duanmuking and the others rush over, you will not have a chance, right? Chapter 325. One Chu Chaoyun was already very difficult for Xiao Chen to deal with. Now, there was another golden-armored warrior with the combat prowess of a peak inferior grade martial king. It would be very difficult for Xiao Chen to defeat the other party. However, using the 2 silver-armored warriors to delay for a while was not a problem. By the time Duanmuking and the others arrived, the fight for the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron would be full of variables. This would be disadvantageous to both of them. That was why Chu Chaoyun offered to give Xiao Chen 1,000 medial-grade spirit stones to get him to leave. With a thought, the 2 silver-armored warriors in the universe ring shot out. Xiao Chen took out the lunar shadow saber and slowly placed his right hand on the hilt. Xiao Chen withdrew his aura and his gaze became as sharp as a saber. Occasionally, a purple electric current would appear behind him, giving off a zzz sound. The state of thunder quickly brewed. The battle between the two would not be decided in a short time. The fight for the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron was now full of variables. Chu Chaoyun frowned heavily. His gaze was like lightning as he stared at Xiao Chen. The holy weapon behind him trembled continuously. It seemed like it would give off a bright light in the next moment, illuminating the ground. Boom! In that instant, an intense golden light appeared in the empty space in front of the bronze doors. It illuminated the dark space, dazzling everyone's eyes. Amidst the golden light, an even more resplendent sword light tore through the obstruction of space and headed for Xiao Chen. Unexpectedly, Chu Chaoyun comprehended the state of light. Xiao Chen squinted his eyes and thought to himself. At the same time, he reacted quickly. The instant the golden light lit up, Xiao Chen drew his saber with his right hand. A flash of purple lightning appeared amidst the dazzling golden light. In an instant, a thunderous roar resounded in the open space. The thunder roared deafeningly. A large patch of purple electric light appeared behind Xiao Chen, forcing the golden light back. The purple light and the thunder light faced off against each other. The state of thunder and state of light entangled with each other. Clang! While the states were locked in a stalemate, the two of them moved at the same time. Their speed was as fast as lightning. Their bodies crossed each other in the air, and their weapons clashed, creating a large amount of sparks. Clang clang clang. Their weapons retreated as soon as they came into contact with each other, pausing in the air for a moment. Then, the two of them suddenly turned around and each launched a fierce attack. Their swords and blades clashed like a storm. Sparks flew and energy flew everywhere. The scattered saber chi and sword chi left deep marks on the walls. As the two of them fought, the golden-armored warrior on the ground charged at Xiao Chen with an imposing aura. With a thought, Xiao Chen directed the two silver-armored warriors to block the golden-armored warrior. Every time Chu Chaoyun made a move, a dazzling golden light would be emitted, which made Xiao Chen's eyes slightly uncomfortable. Xiao Chen's eyes narrowed into slits. The saber contained a strong state of thunder. Countless sparks flickered on it, crackling endlessly. The instant the weapons clashed, the electric sparks flowed along his opponent's sword. Chu Chaoyun felt a slight pain. After a long time, his right hand, which was holding the sword, started to turn numb. Bang! 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 The two of them moved faster and faster. Soon, only blurry shadows could be seen in the air. An intense shockwave surged around the two of them, forming small tornadoes. Actually, the two of them were not using their full power. There were too many variables at this moment. If they fought to the death, only Duanmuking and the others would be able to take advantage of the situation. Chu Chaoyun waited for the instant the golden light dazzled Xiao Chen's eyes. Then, he would make his move, using one move to defeat Xiao Chen. That way, he would be able to save a lot of energy. Xiao Chen was waiting for his opponent's right hand to turn completely numb and lose its grip on the sword. Then, he would send his opponent's weapon flying. That way, he would be able to escape. The golden light and the electric light clashed continuously. Dull explosions resounded. The two of them persisted bitterly, not wanting to give way. They just wanted to see who would fall first. Dong! 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 Just at this moment, heavy footsteps came from the main hall. Chu Chaoyun glanced around and saw that Duanmuking and the others had arrived. Xiao! Chu Chaoyun withdrew his sword and quickly retreated. The golden light in the empty space immediately vanished and the state of light disappeared. You can go. I will leave the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron with you for now. Naturally, I will go and retrieve it one day. Help me take care of it, Chu Chaoyun said casually as he made way for Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen scattered the state of thunder and landed in front of the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. He used one hand and easily lifted the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron above his head. When Xiao Chen passed by Chu Chaoyun, he said softly, "There has never been a precedent of losing something that landed in my hands." It was the same with the Golden Spirit Core in the past and the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron now. Chu Chaoyun watched as Xiao Chen left. He shook his head slightly and said in a voice that only he could hear, "After not seeing you for a year, you have become so strong." The growth of the blue dragon martial spirit probably far exceeds that person's expectations. Chu Chaoyun, where's Yi Chen? Wasn't he fighting with you earlier? Why is he gone all of a sudden? Hua Yunfei asked anxiously as he rushed over. Chu Chaoyun said indifferently, "Sorry, I let him go." Seeing that Chu Chaoyun did not care at all, Hua Yunfei became anxious. He immediately drew his scarlet sword and pointed it at Chu Chaoyun. Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly and the golden-armored warrior took 2 steps forward unhurriedly. Seeing the silent golden-armored warrior, Hua Yunfei did not have the courage to draw his sword. He snorted coldly and sheathed his sword. Ji Changkong looked at the exit of the Fire Li sect. Suddenly, he said something irrelevant, "Don't you feel that he is very similar to someone else? Although his appearance is different and his aura is much weaker, his eyes and sharpness are very similar." Right after he said that, Duanmuking, Hua Yunfei, and the Guyi Marquis exchanged glances with each other. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. The Guyi Marquis said indifferently, "In that case, let's write down this person's surname at the same time and see if our guesses are the same." The few of them stretched out their hands and started to write the word, Shao, in the air. After they finished writing, they revealed expressions of shock. Hua Yunfeng said coldly, "If we all think there is a problem at the same time, then that might be the result. However, it seems like there is no such realistic disguise technique in this world. It is not as simple as changing one's appearance. Instead, one's internal bones and external aura are completely different." In the past, Xiao Chen had a grave and stern appearance. His face looked like it was carved by a knife. His entire person was like a treasured saber drawn from its scabbard, releasing his aura and showing off his sharpness. However, the Shaoqin they saw now had a delicate and ordinary appearance. His sharpness was withdrawn and he did not give off a flamboyant feeling. He was a completely different person. The Guy Marquis continued, "The most important thing is that I do not believe this person's strength could improve so quickly. 1 year ago, he was only a superior grade martial master. Now, he is a medial grade martial saint. Unless he cultivates a heaven-ranked cultivation technique. However, within the great Qin nation, only the royal court has a heaven-ranked cultivation technique. How could a nameless person like him have one?" Ji Changkong glanced at the silent Chu Chaoyun and said, "Chu Chaoyun, you have fought with him before. What do you think?" Chu Chaoyun smiled gently and said, "Is it really that important whether it is or not? 2 years from now, there will naturally be people looking for you. Don't tell me you are afraid." Ha ha. 3 days later, in an extremely desolate area at the periphery of the ink forest, Shaoqin sat cross-legged on the ground. The dragon phoenix cauldron was not far from him. 2 silver-armored warriors guarded the cauldron, one on the left and one on the right. Bai sat quietly on top of the cauldron. Occasionally, his intelligent eyes would look around, helping Shaoqin to avoid unknown dangers. After a long time, Shaoqin stopped circulating his energy and opened his eyes. 2 beams of light flashed in the depths of his eyes as he took a deep breath. This breath was long and drawn out, like a long sharp arrow. Even after it flew far away, it did not dissipate. Shaoqin smiled faintly and stood up. He picked up the lunar shadow saber beside him and walked over to the dragon phoenix cauldron. Bai landed on Shaoqin's shoulder with a so sound. The dragon phoenix cauldron was 16 meters tall. The 3 pillars were 10 meters long and the cauldron itself was 6 meters long. When Shaoqin stood below it, he seemed very small. Shaoqin leaped up gently and executed the gravity spell. He slowly flew to the top of the cauldron and looked down. The cauldron was squarish and empty. It was only about 5 meters deep. Shaoqin could clearly see the bottom with one glance. However, it gave off a feeling of boundlessness. It was like there was a small world inside. After leaving the fiery sect remnant, Shaoqin was not in a rush to leave the ink forest. The Duanmu clan's profound ice palace was still guarding the exit of the forest. Thinking about how terrifying the profound ice palace was, Shaoqin was not foolish enough to walk right into their trap. For the next 3 days, he hid in this ink forest. As he killed demonic beasts, he recovered his strength. Shaoqin handed the dragon phoenix cauldron to the 2 silver-armored warriors. This did not affect his pace. When he was resting and meditating, Bai would help guard it. In the ink forest where Shaoqin's spiritual sense could not extend too far, the normally unimportant Bai was very useful. After resolving his worries, this ink forest, where the spiritual energy was thin and the demonic beasts were ferocious, was the best place for Shaoqin to temper himself. Shaoqin was not in a rush to leave. Recollecting his thoughts, Shaoqin looked at the empty cauldron. He flicked his finger and shot out a strand of purple flame. The flame spun around the cauldron and immediately became very thin, turning into tiny sparks. Shaoqin flicked his finger and shot out tens of strands of purple thunder true fire in one go. This exhausted a quarter of his essence. However, the flame was still very thin, it could not fill the space inside. Shaoqin frowned slightly and said doubtfully, "This is strange. There is clearly only so much space. Logically speaking, my flame should have risen up long ago." In the past 3 days, whenever Shaoqin had free time, he would study the dragon phoenix cauldron. However, he did not make any progress. He only knew that there were many moonstones in the cauldron. The entire cauldron was made of peak-grade frost iron, it was even harder than a heaven-ranked spirit weapon. Furthermore, the space inside seemed to be much larger than it looked. This was the result of Shaoqin's verification. There should be spatial formation markings carved on it. With a flip of his palm, Shaoqin gathered all the flames in the dragon phoenix cauldron. A clump of fierce purple flame immediately soared up in his palm. Chapter 326. Boom. Xiaochen casually waved his hand in front of him. The flames left a long trail of purple flames in the air. Everywhere it passed, the trees in its way were burned to ashes. After the flames flew for 1,000 meters, they crashed into the ground and gave off a loud sound. A purple mushroom cloud soared up from the ground. Roar! Roar! The loud sound immediately startled the surrounding demonic beasts. 3 black-winged demonic wolves with black smoke around them let out roars and charged over in an overbearing manner. The black-winged demonic wolves were originally rank 5 spirit beasts, winged wolves. Aside from their large bodies, they had 2 bone wings on their backs that allowed them to fly at low altitudes, increasing their speed. After they demonized, their offensive power and speed increased. Their overall combat prowess doubled, making them even more ferocious and terrifying. Xiaochen looked at the 2 black-winged demonic wolves and smiled faintly. He took a step forward and landed on the mouth of the dragon phoenix cauldron. Then, he placed his right hand on his saber hilt. Hu Qi. The bone wings on the backs of the 2 black-winged demonic wolves flapped heavily. There was a gust of wind in the air and the 2 black-winged demonic wolves quickly flew up. They opened their huge jaws, revealing their black fangs that flickered with a cold light. The bone wings flapped in the air, making a woo-woo sound as they launched themselves at Xiaochen. Who? Before Xiaochen could move, Bai, who was on his shoulder, immediately jumped down. He rubbed his palms and sent out a whirlwind. He immediately blew one of the black-winged demonic wolves into the air. The black-winged demonic wolf came quickly and left even faster. It tumbled on the ground for a few meters before coming to a stop. Just as it got up, it saw a white figure rushing at it. Chi-chi. The white figure was like a beam of light. In a flash, 5 bloody wounds appeared on the left wing of the black-winged demonic wolf. Black smoke came out of it. Xiaochen glanced at it and ignored it. He had already found out in the past few days that Bai was much stronger than he had imagined. He did not feel any pressure when facing a peak rank 5 demonic beast alone. He could use his advantage in speed to deal with it easily. The mysterious 9 Heavenly Revolution transformation was an immortal grade cultivation technique for fiends. It allowed Bai's strength to increase at a horrifying rate. Kacha! With a flash of lightning, Xiaochen quickly drew the snow-white lunar shadow saber with his right hand, which was on the saber hilt. Xiaochen leaped down, and his saber light flashed as he chopped off the bone wings of the other black-winged demonic wolf. The black-winged demonic wolf howled in pain as it stood up. Its 5 sharp claws shot out with a so sound. Each of his fingernails was 20 centimeters long, and there were hooks on his fingertips. They were like 5 sharp knives in his flesh. They cut through the air and went for Xiaochen's head at lightning speed. Even steel would have 5 holes in it, let alone a human's head. Xiaochen's expression didn't change. He leaned his body slightly and took a step back with his right foot. Xiaochen's gaze was like lightning as he stared at the wolf claws glinting with a cold light. Then, he raised the scabbard in his left hand. Dang! The tip of the scabbard struck the palm of the wolf claw. The huge impact caused a small bloody hole to appear in the tough palm. Unexpectedly, it did not pierce through. The defense of this wolf claw is pretty good, Xiaochen thought to himself. In that case, let's add another layer of force. Bang! A force came from Xiaochen's left arm, and he pushed it forward. The tip of the scabbard immediately pierced through the tough wolf claw. In pain, the other claw of the black-winged demonic wolf moved at an even faster speed towards Xiaochen. The force was so strong that it split the air in half. The black-winged demonic wolf was fast, but Xiaochen was even faster. The lunar shadow saber lit up with a resplendent purple light. As the light flickered, he chopped off the entire wolf claw. Bang! Xiaochen kicked heavily at the chest of the black-winged demonic wolf. The huge body of the black-winged demonic wolf immediately flew backward. Cassier! Cassier! 10,000 kilograms of force broke several of the ribs in the black-winged demonic wolf's chest. The sound of bones breaking rang out continuously. The black-winged demonic wolf was merely a superior grade rank 5 demonic beast. Before Xiaochen comprehended a state, he could already defeat it. After he comprehended a state and infused it with holy might, his strength increased greatly. Dealing with it became much easier. Now, a demonic beast of this level was barely enough to deal with Xiaochen. The ones that could truly put pressure on Xiaochen were rank 6 demonic beasts. In the past few days, Xiaochen had been targeting rank 6 demonic beasts. The black-winged demonic wolf still wanted to struggle to its feet. However, Xiaochen lost his patience and swung the lunar shadow saber. The blade flickered with a crackling electric light. It was like an extremely strong bolt of lightning. With a loud boom, it stabbed into the chest of the black-winged demonic wolf. The state of thunder contained in the saber exploded. The huge body of the black-winged demonic wolf was charred by the electric light. Xiaochen casually waved his hand and the lunar shadow saber returned to his hand. After the lunar shadow saber returned to Xiaochen's hand, an invisible strand of red light flew out of the black-winged demonic wolf's corpse and entered the throne mark on Xiaochen's forehead. The red light contained the black-winged demonic wolf's state of massacre. The scarlet throne mark flashed with a red light, and this strand of red light containing the state of massacre immediately entered the scarlet throne in Xiaochen's sea of consciousness. The red clouds below the throne started to churn slowly. After a while, they stopped, as though they were not satisfied yet. Xiaochen did not find this strange. For the past 3 days, the scarlet throne would absorb the state of massacre of all the demonic beasts that he killed. The stronger the demonic beast, the more red light would fly out. At first, Xiaochen was worried that the state of massacre from back then would reappear. However, he slowly discovered that the state of massacre accumulated in the throne was relatively small. Compared to the overwhelming state of massacre from back then, it was much weaker. The most important thing was that Xiaochen discovered that he could control this state of massacre. With a thought, the state of massacre contained in the throne would infuse into his saber technique. This was equivalent to Xiaochen obtaining another state, the state of massacre, out of nowhere. There were only benefits and no drawbacks. Compared to the state of wind, state of mountain, and state of light, this ethereal state of massacre was much harder to comprehend. As far as Xiaochen knew, even in the heavenly saber pavilion, the divine saber camp, which practiced the Tao of massacre, only a few of the older generation experts truly comprehended the state of massacre. However, the state of massacre contained in the Scarlet Throne was simply too little. When Xiaochen used it, the effects were not obvious, it was dispensable. However, its rate of growth was extremely terrifying. As long as it killed powerful life forms, it would continue to accumulate. It could be foreseen that it would eventually reach a horrifying level. The Scarlet Throne was a secret treasure refined by the ancient Evil King. The Evil King was a peak expert that could rival the Ice Empress. The secret treasure he refined was definitely not simple. Unfortunately, someone had torn out all the information about the Scarlet Throne from that book. Hence, no one knew what the Scarlet Throne's secrets were. Yeah. Bai's inarticulate voice interrupted Xiaochen's thoughts. Xiaochen lowered his head to look at him. Xiaochen saw Bai waving his arms and legs, trying to claim credit. The black-winged demonic wolf was lying on the ground, riddled with injuries. It could not move at all, it was on its last breath. Xiaochen smiled faintly, he knew what Bai wanted. He took out a gourd filled with wine and handed it over. Bai cheered and revealed a cute smile. He received the gourd and leaped onto the cauldron. Xiaochen dealt the final blow to the black-winged demonic wolf on its last breath. An invisible red light immediately flew out from the corpse and entered the Scarlet Throne in Xiaochen's sea of consciousness. Xiaochen took out the demonic cores of the 2 black-winged demonic wolves and turned his head to look at Bai, who was happily drinking wine. He smiled helplessly. After giving the two silver-armored warriors the order to kill any creature that approached the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, Shao Chen prepared to walk forward alone. With the two silver-armored warriors guarding the cauldron, Shao Chen would be able to sense the slightest movement. Furthermore, with Bai at the side, there would not be any major problems with the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Bai, stay here and help me look after the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Don't run around, okay? Shao Chen said softly to Bai. Bai put down the gourd filled with wine. Her little face was flushed red, she looked very cute. She clenched her fist tightly and patted her chest, squeaking non-stop. Shao Chen understood what she meant. This little fellow said that she would complete the mission. Whoever came would be smashed to death with the gourd. Smiling faintly, Shao Chen rubbed Bai's head. Then, he grasped the lunar shadow saber in his hand tightly and turned to leave this place. Rank 5 demonic beasts could no longer pique Shao Chen's interest. Only rank 6 demonic beasts were worth making a move. If Shao Chen wanted to find rank 6 demonic beasts, naturally, he had to go deeper. The closer he got to the core area, the higher the chances of meeting a rank 6 demonic beast. Within the dark ink forest shrouded in black smoke, Shao Chen held his saber and cautiously advanced forward step by step. The ink forest was known as the danger zone for demonic beasts. This was no joke. With every step he took, he had to be on guard against demonic beasts pouncing at him from all directions. It could be the ground, the sky, the mutated beasts hidden in the air, or even the trees behind him. They could all open their mouths wide and swallow him up when he was careless. It created a tremendous amount of pressure on one's mental state, causing one's heartstrings to be constantly strung taut. Those who did not have a strong will would have their minds broken down before their bodies even collapsed due to their paranoia. Shao Chen maintained his calm. Along the way, he encountered attacks from various demonic beasts. However, they were all rank 5 demonic beasts. Shao Chen was not in the mood to fight. After scaring them away, he could not be bothered with them anymore. If he really could not scare them away, he would temporarily avoid them. With his full speed, it would be hard for a rank 5 demonic beast to keep up with him. 10 minutes later, Shao Chen suddenly stopped and looked around. It was empty and quiet, as if even the air had stopped flowing. Shao Chen suddenly had an uncomfortable feeling in his heart. It was as if he had encountered something unclean and felt disgusted. Being stared at, Shao Chen calmed himself down and got rid of this uncomfortable feeling. There must be a powerful demonic beast hiding in the dark. The other party had treated him as prey, and his concealment skills were superb. Even with his full perception, Shao Chen couldn't even tell where the other party was. Chapter 327. Maintaining his vigilance, Shao Chen placed his right hand on the saber hilt. His gaze started to wander around, searching for the hidden demonic beast. Time seemed to stop. Shao Chen remained motionless as he held his saber hilt. The state of thunder brewed continuously, waiting for the moment his opponent appeared to strike. However, time passed slowly. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, soon, half an hour had passed. The anticipated enemy still did not appear. This was an extremely crafty demonic beast. It knew how to wear down its prey's will, putting a lot of pressure on its opponent. Too much time passed. For an instant, Shao Chen even doubted his senses. Did I make a mistake? Was the so-called hidden demonic beast just me overthinking? There was no demonic beast at all. Shao Chen wanted to scatter the state of thunder that he had been brewing for a long time. However, the instant his mental state wavered, the scarlet throne between his eyebrows released a bright red light. This caused Shao Chen to give up on this idea. As the evil king's secret treasure, the scarlet throne would not give a warning for no reason. My senses are definitely correct, Shao Chen thought to himself. Shao Chen's eyes regained their calm. The scarlet throne in his sea of consciousness immediately stopped moving. Since they wanted to compete in patience, then let's see who could not wait any longer. Who? After a long time, a cool breeze suddenly blew. It picked up a few leaves on the ground and flew them towards Xiao Chen. Unable to endure any longer, is this a psychological battle? Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. He did not feel any killing qi in the cool breeze. So, he ignored the few leaves that flew over. Who? After a long time, four cool breezes blew from the ground. They picked up a large number of leaves and blew them towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's heart was as calm as still water. His gaze remained incomparably calm. His right hand, which was on the saber hilt, did not move, he continued to ignore them. Following that, a few cool breezes blew occasionally, trying to disrupt Xiao Chen's thoughts and the state of thunder that he had been brewing. Xiao Chen ignored it. He didn't sense any killing intent. If he acted rashly, he would only make his thunderous strike miss. The surroundings suddenly became silent. The cool breeze that had been harassing Xiao Chen all this time no longer appeared. That strange silence once again descended upon this space. Xiao Chen said indifferently in his heart, "It's coming." Boom! An incomparably violent whirlwind suddenly surged up from the flat ground. The gale roared angrily and swept up all the fallen leaves on the ground. The falling leaves obscured Xiao Chen's vision and covered the sky. A terrifying and ruthless aura was hidden in the wind as it swept towards Xiao Chen. Rumble. The state of thunder that Xiao Chen had been brewing for a long time erupted at this moment. A bolt of purple lightning descended from the sky like a javelin, piercing through the 9 heavens and tearing apart the sky as it fell to the ground. A long crack immediately appeared in the falling leaves that covered the sky, revealing the mastermind hidden behind the scenes. Through the crack in the fallen leaves, Xiao Chen saw a huge four-legged snake whose skin color changed continuously. There was a huge crown on the snake's head, and its eyes were deep red. The snake's skin changed color continuously. Sometimes, it was the yellow of the fallen leaves, and sometimes, it was the transparent color of the air. It was faintly discernible, looking very strange. However, what surprised Xiao Chen the most was not this. It was actually a snake demonic beast with a crown on its head. A snake growing a crown would take at least 700 years. It would take at least 700 years. Xiao Chen was very clear on what 700 years or more meant. The scarlet crown snake that he met in the underground world was very horrifying. Xiao Chen clearly remembered how horrifying it was. With just one tail strike, it had shattered the silver warship into pieces. If the scarlet crown snake turned into a demonic beast, its strength would more than double. The crack in the fallen leaves that was blasted open by the lightning started to close up slowly. The figure of the scarlet crown snake slowly disappeared from Xiao Chen's vision. Ka-xie. The instant the crack in the fallen leaves closed up completely, Xiao Chen immediately drew the lunar shadow saber in his hand. A strong wind blew, scattering all the fallen leaves in the air. Countless arcs of electricity moved about in the air, striking the fallen leaves and giving off a crackling sound. In an instant, all the scattered leaves were smashed into powder. The hidden scarlet crown snake was completely exposed. Xiao Chen shouted and locked his killing qi on the other party. Then, he leaped into the air. Xiao Chen brandished his saber and executed a lightning-quick strike. Wukue shakes the heavens. The ancient divine Wukue tree appeared from nowhere and grew rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it became lush with leaves, covering the sky. It was like a lone peak as it smashed down with the force of thunder. The 100-meter-long crown snake was as thick as a water bucket. When it saw the divine Wukue tree descending on its head, its scarlet eyes released a scarlet glow. It opened its mouth and the surrounding temperature plummeted. A cold light appeared in its mouth. After a while, the cold light exploded and a sharp ice pillar shot out. Qi! Qi! When the ice pillar came in contact with the Wukue tree, frost immediately appeared on the surface of the Wukue tree. The Wukue tree, which was filled with the berserk power of thunder, was actually frozen solid from the inside out. Xiao Chen's eyes were filled with astonishment. He said, "How can this be?" The Wukuei saber technique is a sure-kill martial technique. Unexpectedly, it was broken in such a way. When two kinds of energy clashed, if neither side had absolute strength, there would be an intense explosion. There was only one possibility for such an effect. The other party's ice-attributed energy far surpassed the lightning-attributed energy that Xiao Qin could unleash. Regardless of quality or quantity, it completely surpassed Xiao Qin. Otherwise, the Wukuei tree would have had a chance to explode. This four-legged crown snake has lived for at least 1,000 years, Xiao Qin thought in horror. It is already a spirit, yet it is so crafty and patient. Ka-xie. Ka-xie. The frozen Wukuei tree started to crack continuously. It shattered into pieces of ice and fell to the ground. Thunderclouds churned continuously in the sky. Xiao Qin looked at the four-legged crown snake as it flicked its forked tongue in and out. Xiao Qin grasped his saber hilt with both hands and focused. He had never been so nervous before. Xiao Qin had great strength and a crafty and cautious character. This was a peak rank 6 demonic beast that had lived for 1,000 years. It was even stronger than the Scarlet Flame Chief that he met earlier. Boom! Just as Xiao Qin was hesitating on whether to retreat or not, the scarlet throne mark on his forehead flickered with a scarlet light. The scarlet throne flew out of nowhere. Before Xiao Qin could react, the strip of cloth on his forehead tore into countless pieces. A scarlet cloud soared into the sky. Above the scarlet cloud, Xiao Qin had unknowingly sat on the scarlet throne. The instant the strip of cloth tore, Xiao Qian's originally delicate and ordinary aura instantly turned strange. His skin was as white as snow, and the scarlet throne mark on his forehead. When he looked at Xiao Qin, he felt like he was unable to extricate himself from this gaze. Of course, Xiao Qin did not know about all this. He used his foot to step on the scarlet cloud. The scarlet cloud seemed solid. When he stepped on it, it was like he was walking on flat ground. The appearance of the scarlet throne surprised Xiao Qin. He did not know what it was trying to do. Qi! Qi! Just as Xiao Qin was feeling confused, the scarlet throne under him started to slowly seep into his flesh. Soon, a viscous scarlet liquid covered Xiao Qian's skin, forming a scarlet battle armor. The battle armor covered Xiao Qian's entire body. It even formed a scarlet helmet on his head, covering all the vital points. The strangest thing was that the insides of the battle armor were tightly connected to the cells in Xiao Qian's skin. It was like it was made of flesh and blood. The four-legged crown snake's thick limbs stood on the ground. Its scarlet eyes flickered with uncertainty. When the four-legged crown snake saw Xiao Qin on the scarlet cloud, its skin started to change color, merging with the air. However, without the cover of the fallen leaves, when Xiao Qin looked carefully, he could see a blurry silhouette slowly moving around him. When the battle armor that the scarlet throne had turned into appeared, Xiao Qin felt that his defense had increased by more than 50%. Furthermore, his strength and speed had also increased. It was like his entire body had an inexhaustible amount of energy. His overall combat prowess had increased by 50%. The secret treasure refined by the ancient evil king is truly unfathomable. However, with the help of this battle armor, my chances of defeating this 1,000-year-old crown snake should increase by 50%. Xiao Qin completely dispelled any thoughts of retreating. Now that he had a 50% chance of victory, he should go all out. Xiao Qin shouted and leaped down from the scarlet cloud. Then, he quickly rushed towards the blurry silhouette on the ground. Hu Qi! A huge wind blade appeared out of nowhere. The incomparably sharp wind blade sliced the air in half. It sounded like a piece of cloth being torn apart. What a fellow! He actually grasped two attributes at the same time. Xiao Qin pushed off the ground with his feet and an explosive force shot out. In an instant, his body soared more than 100 meters before he landed on a large tree. In the time that Xiao Qin took to leave, the afterimage he left on the ground was shattered by the wind blade before it could scatter. The berserk wind blade's momentum did not diminish. It chopped a large tree behind him in half. The cut of the tree was as smooth as a mirror. It was enough to show how condensed and pure the wind blades were. After flying for a distance of 1,000 meters, the wind blades finally stopped moving. In the blink of an eye, the huge wind blade arrived at Xiao Chen's feet and slowly dissipated. Finally, it turned into a berserk wind that carried countless fallen leaves into the distance. Before Xiao Chen could feel astonished, a strand of frost quickly spread out from the tree below him. In the blink of an eye, it arrived at Xiao Chen's feet. Startled, Xiao Chen quickly jumped down. The moment he landed, a wind blade appeared out of nowhere. It accurately calculated Xiao Chen's position. Xiao Chen somersaulted miserably in the air and landed on the ground. Before he could get up, the boundless frost on the ground gave off cold qi. It formed a circle and quickly moved towards Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen looked around, the cold qi created an icy fog on the ground. It covered an area of more than a kilometer around him, not giving him any place to stand. How hateful! Helpless, Xiao Chen could only leap into the air to prevent the cold qi from binding him. Boom! The instant the cold qi gathered, the surrounding temperature dropped by several hundred degrees. A huge pillar of ice shot up from where Xiao Chen stood earlier, heading in the direction that he had jumped. Chapter 328. The four-legged crown snake launched a series of attacks. It did not give Xiao Chen any time to react. It had everything within its grasp. The attacks were closely linked. It wanted to force Xiao Chen into a dead end, not giving him any chance to attack. What a crafty 1,000-year-old demonic beast. When Xiao Chen saw the ice pillar rushing at him, he thought to himself, I can't retreat anymore. Otherwise, the danger I face will only increase. Qi breaks Wukuei. Xiao Chen shouted and the dark clouds above churned continuously. A bolt of lightning tore through the darkness, causing Xiao Chen's aura to soar. A strand of dense purple saber qi appeared from nowhere. Xiao Chen was unaware of it. The remnant state of massacre in the scarlet battle armor quickly merged into the saber technique. Ka Xie. Ka Xie. The power of the qi breaks Wukuei shocked Xiao Chen. It actually easily broke the ice pillar soaring into the sky in half. After merging the state of massacre, Xiao Chen's spirit of Wukuei was like a treasure saber that had been reforged. The sharpness of the saber had increased by 50%. When Xiao Chen saw the two halves of the ice pillar shattering in the air, a boundless killing intent soared in his heart. Xiao Chen's gaze was like a weapon filled with killing qi. Everywhere his gaze passed, the killing intent seemed solid, causing one's heart to tremble in fear. Kill! Wukuei shakes the heavens. Xiao Chen shouted and executed Wukuei breaks the heavens again. A purple divine Wukuei tree appeared from nowhere. The state of massacre in the battle armor instantly merged into it. Xiao Chen saw countless meridians flowing in the interior of the towering tree. They looked like blood vessels. After a while, countless scarlet Wukuei flowers bloomed on the lush tree. The towering tree immediately turned sinister and horrifying, looking very strange. The surrounding cold qi gathered in the four-legged crown snake's sinister mouth once again. An ice pillar condensed with a cold light struck the roots of the divine Wukuei tree again. Endless cold air began to spread from the bottom of the tree to the top of the tree trunk. But this time, the cold qi was unable to penetrate the inside of the tree of God. There was no way to completely freeze the Wukuei tree. The state of massacre would not allow the ice to break into the Wukuei tree. Kacha kacha. After a while, the surface of the Wukuei tree, which was covered in ice, slowly cracked. Pieces of shattered ice fell off. However, the Wukuei tree, which contained the force of lightning, was still in perfect condition as it pressed down violently. Boom! The divine tree descended, bringing with it the unceasing power of thunder and lightning. It ruthlessly pressed down on the blurry silhouette in the sky. The huge four-legged crown snake let out a pained roar. Its body completely appeared in Xiao Chen's field of vision, its skin covered in flickering lightning. The murderous intent contained in the lightning easily tore through the layers of ice defenses that the crowned snake had set up as though they were tofu. In an instant, the four-legged crowned snake's defenses crumbled. It used its physical body to take on Xiao Chen's move head-on. Its scales exploded and countless black blood droplets seeped out of its skin. Faint electric light could still be seen flickering in the wounds. It looked like states were also divided into grades. The state of massacre was clearly stronger than the state of thunder. However, the fusion of the state of massacre was much easier than the fusion of other states. Xiao Chen was able to easily infuse the state of thunder. Did this mean that the fusion of states of different styles was easier than the fusion of states of the same style? For example, the fusion of the state of wind and the state of cloud, or the state of mountain and the state of cloud were energy-based states. Merging them was very difficult. However, it was easier to merge the state of massacre and energy-based states. However, it would be much more difficult to merge them with the states of destruction, life, and nature, which were similar to the state of massacre. It looked like the knowledge and methods involved in states were much more complicated than Xiao Chen had imagined. However, this opened a new door for Xiao Chen's thinking. These thoughts flashed in Xiao Chen's mind, but he did not think too deeply about them. At this moment, he was still in the middle of a battle of life and death. It was clearly not the time to think about this problem. It would be better to think about it after the battle. Under the pain, the four-legged crowned snake let out an angry roar, its forked tongue flicking in and out continuously. Hu Chi! A red light flashed. The four-legged crowned snake's red tongue was like a bolt of lightning. It was so fast that one's thoughts could not keep up with its speed. Xiao Chen's heart tightened and he quickly dodged to the side. However, that tongue was simply too fast. The long red snake pierced through his heart when it was only 10 centimeters away. A heart-wrenching pain spread through every inch of Xiao Chen's nerves. The enraged Xiao Chen swung his saber and chopped at the tongue that was trying to retract. Then, he ruthlessly cut off a large chunk of it. The intense pain disrupted the circulation of Xiao Chen's essence. The gravity spell immediately scattered, and Xiao Chen's body fell heavily to the ground. Who? Just as Xiao Chen was about to fall to the ground, the red cloud in the distance flew over and caught him firmly. Xiao Chen could not be bothered with shock or pain. He pulled out the long red tongue that had pierced through his body. A horrifying hole immediately appeared on his chest, and blood gushed out. ZZ. ZZ, the red battle armor suddenly wriggled, and the terrifying hole quickly healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it healed completely. The wound was healed. However, Xiao Chen clearly felt a lot of his life force drain away. This startled Xiao Chen. Unexpectedly, this throne can forcefully use my life force to treat my injuries. Life force was the equivalent of a person's lifespan. The life force that was used to treat Xiao Chen had reduced his lifespan by more than a year. Xiao Chen shook his head and suppressed these thoughts. He jumped down from the red cloud and activated the windwalk shoes. Then, he fought the four-legged crowned snake continuously. With the aid of the state of massacre, Xiao Chen was able to hold his own against the four-legged crowned snake. Sometimes, after Xiao Chen broke his opponent's attack, the electric light would even leave wounds on his opponent's body. One man and one beast started an intense battle in the forest. A strong wind howled, lightning flashed, and ice spread everywhere. The battlefield grew larger and larger. When the surrounding trees were struck by the shockwaves of the battle, they immediately turned into countless splinters, dancing in the strong wind. Bang! 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 The four-legged crowned snake's cold chi froze the soil on the ground. It became very brittle. When a leaf fell on it, it would explode and kick up a cloud of dust. Wukue blossoms. Xiao Chen grabbed hold of an opportunity and executed the wukue blossoms. The state of massacre infused into the wukue blossoms produced a scarlet wukue flower, wrapping Xiao Chen within it. Bang! 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 The four-legged crowned snake sensed the might of this move. It spat out sharp wind blades and ice arrows, continuously striking the surface of the scarlet wukuei flower. Within the flower bud, Xiao Chen's internal organs were shaken. His qi and blood surged, and blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. However, Xiao Chen endured it and continued to circulate his essence through his meridians. He focused on executing the wukuei blossoms. Boom! The scarlet flower suddenly bloomed. Scarlet petals bloomed in the air. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and countless scarlet lights fell from the petals. When they landed on his body, his speed reached Mach 3. As the petals filled the air, Xiao Chen's saber strike was extremely beautiful. It was like a beam of light flashing by. A huge bloody hole appeared at the four-legged crown snake's weak point. The berserk energy of the lunar shadow saber poured out wildly. Bang! Just as Xiao Chen stabilized himself, the four-legged crown snake's huge tail swept across the air. It sent Xiao Chen flying, causing him to vomit a mouthful of blood. There was no panic on Xiao Chen's pained face. He quickly formed hand seals with his left hand and shouted, "Wukuei supporting the heavens." The scarlet petals filled the air and formed a scarlet river in the air. They flowed through the four-legged crown snake's wound and quickly entered its body. After a while, a scarlet wukuei tree grew wildly at the four-legged crown snake's weak point. Countless roots extended into its body, firmly taking root. The divine wukuei tree absorbed the life force of the four-legged crown snake, turning it into its own nourishment. In the blink of an eye, the divine wukuei tree covered the sky and covered the sun. Countless branches sprouted out, producing scarlet wukuei flowers. They were very beautiful, looking very beautiful. Xiao Chen pushed off the scarlet cloud with his feet and his body rose up quickly. The unending thunderclouds in the sky churned continuously. A divine tree started to slowly grow above Xiao Chen's head. He muttered to himself, "I'll use this move to end this battle." Wukuei breaks the heavens. The instant the divine tree grew completely, an earth-shattering scarlet bolt of lightning streaked across the sky. The lunar shadow saber in Xiao Chen's hand released a resplendent scarlet saber light. The scarlet beam of light quickly elongated. The four-legged crown snake, which was rooted to the ground by the wukuei tree and unable to move, revealed an expression of horror and despair in its scarlet eyes. Die! Suddenly, a scarlet light flashed on the four-legged crown snake's body. After the scarlet light faded for a long time, the huge body of the four-legged crown snake split in half. It was split into two halves from the middle. Endless black blood rained down from the sky along with its shattered internal organs. After executing wukuei breaks the heavens, the scarlet battle armor on Xiao Chen's body immediately separated from his flesh. Then, it slowly wriggled and turned into a scarlet light before returning to his sea of consciousness. Then, it turned into a scarlet throne. In the end, the state of massacre contained in it was too little. Xiao Chen had already exhausted it. Pooh! Xiao Chen landed on the ground, exhausted. He immediately lay down. The battle with the 1,000-year-old demonic beast was too tiring. Furthermore, using the state of massacre had a strong side effect. Even now, Xiao Chen's head was still very dizzy. It was not time to rest yet. Xiao Chen braced himself and quickly got up. He walked over to the four-legged crown snake's corpse. Hu Qi! Hu Qi! Balls of red light, invisible to the naked eye, quickly flew towards the throne mark on Xiao Chen's forehead. Chapter 329. That was at least 100 more than the rank 5 demonic beast. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. The longer it lived, the more it killed. In Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness, the Scarlet Throne greedily absorbed the intent of massacre. Eventually, because there was too much red light, it could not help but tremble. As the Scarlet Throne trembled, Xiao Chen's fatigued body felt an indescribable carefree feeling. It made his body and mind feel much better. Xiao Chen infused his spiritual sense into the Scarlet Throne. In the small world inside, a golden deity floated high in the sky. That was the spiritual mark that Xiaochen left in there. Underground, the once boundless sea of blood was now dry and narrow. All that was left was a 5-meter-wide scarlet puddle. This was the result of absorbing the rank 6,000-year-old demonic snake. Previously, there were only a few drops of scarlet liquid. It was even more pitiful. Take it slow, Xiaochen was not in a rush. He withdrew his spiritual sense and focused his gaze on the demonic snake's corpse. There were many treasures waiting for him to collect. Xiaochen extracted the four-legged crown snake's demonic core and took out a sharp knife. Then, he started to cut off the demonic snake's scales. These scales could change color freely. They were top-grade materials for refining magic treasures. There was also the snake gallbladder, the 4 legs, and the crown on its head. They were all good stuff. After tidying up everything, Xiaochen found a big tree and started to circulate his energy to recover his essence. After a fierce battle, Xiaochen had expended too much energy and sustained significant internal injuries. This was especially so for the final swing of the demonic snake's tail. There was an estimated 25,000 kilograms of force that Xiaochen had to endure. If it were not for the scarlet battle armor increasing his defense by 50% and his high recovery rate, that swing would have shattered all his internal organs. Xiaochen took out a medial-grade spirit stone and slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. The endless pure spiritual energy in the medial-grade spirit stone poured into the chi whirlpool in his dantian. The liquid in the purple chi whirlpool started to drip slowly. After 12 hours, the essence liquid in the chi whirlpool was finally filled. Xiaochen quickly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation to nourish his damaged internal organs. After another half a day, Xiaochen finally cleared all the repercussions of this battle. She opened her eyes, and a purple light flashed through them. Her bewitchingly beautiful and fair face regained its color and was no longer deathly pale. Anyone who looked at her would easily be captivated. Xiaochen got up and looked at the gray sky. Then, he resumed his journey of killing rank 6 demonic beasts and witnessed the might of the state of massacre. Xiaochen became even more interested in killing strong demonic beasts. He had to collect more demonic beasts to strengthen his state of massacre. Just like that, Xiaochen stayed at the periphery of the ink forest for 2 days before he returned to where Xiao Bai and the silver-armored warrior were. In 2 days, 12 demonic spirit world, demonic beast, Chen List, Xiaochen, 1, beast, the 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1, and 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1, 1, 1. If Xiaochen continued fighting, he would no longer be cultivating. Instead, he would be destroying his future. The body was the foundation of everything. There were no changes to the dragon phoenix cauldron or the 2 silver-armored warriors. There were no signs of demonic beasts in these 2 days. However, when Xiaochen looked around and did not see Bai, he felt it was strange. The spirit blood jade senses told him that Bai was within 10 meters of him. How could he not see him? Xiaochen leaped up gently and arrived at the mouth of the dragon phoenix cauldron. When he looked down, he finally saw Bai. Xiaochen only saw Bai jumping around continuously. However, the cauldron was only 6 meters tall, it could not jump up no matter what. Rongrong's cute face was filled with doubt. She kept scratching her head, she could not figure this out. Xiaochen smiled faintly and looked at the bottle gourd that had fallen to the side. He immediately guessed what had happened. The little fellow must have gotten drunk on the mouth of the cauldron and fell in. The internal space of the cauldron was definitely lined with spatial formations. It was a small world of its own. Even if Xiaochen fell in, he would have to put in a lot of effort to get out. How could Bai jump out? When Bai saw Xiaochen on the mouth of the cauldron, he immediately revealed a look of joy. He looked pitifully at Xiaochen. Xiaochen smiled faintly and the spirit blood jade on his chest flashed with light, sucking in Bai. Iya! Iya! Bai came out of the spirit blood jade and pointed at the dragon phoenix cauldron as it cried out in Xiaochen's embrace. The gist of it was that this cauldron was very horrifying, very bad, very scary. Xiaochen smiled and scolded, "Let's see if you still dare to drink in the future. Since you like to drink so much, you should know the consequences of getting drunk. You even said you would help me protect this cauldron. In the end, you can't even protect yourself." Xiaochen put down the injured Bai and landed on the ground. Then, he casually found a tree that he could chop down with his saber. After that, he took out a carving knife and quickly carved out a lifelike flying bird. Then, he gently blew on the wood shavings on it, making the carving look even more realistic. "It looks like my carving skills have not fallen behind. I wonder if Yingyu is satisfied with the carving I gave her." Xiaochen smiled gently before withdrawing his smile. He said in a deep voice, "Life bestowal spell." The wooden bird immediately came to life. Under Xiaochen's control, it flapped its wings and flew up. After circling around, it quickly flew towards the exit of the ink forest. As long as it was not a wooden carving for combat, there were no requirements for the materials. Xiaochen only wanted to use this bird to scout ahead. So, there was no need to use the spiritual wood. In this forest, spiritual sense was greatly restricted. However, the life bestowal spell was not as restricted. After an hour, the wooden bird passed through the long dark tunnel and saw the scene outside. The majestic profound ice palace was still in its original spot. There were many cultivators standing guard at the entrance. It looked like they had not given up yet. Xiaochen left a mark on the wooden bird and stopped it on the wall. He muttered, "It has already been 5 days." Unexpectedly, this group of people did not leave. "However, if you want to compete in patience with me, I'm afraid you will be disappointed." Time passed day by day. Xiaochen hunted demonic beasts during the day and cultivated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art at night. The spiritual energy here was very sparse, it was not suitable for cultivating the purple thunder divine incantation. Hence, Xiaochen could only cultivate body tempering cultivation techniques. Coincidentally, the dragon and tiger body sculpting art was just a little short of small perfection. He might as well make use of this opportunity to make a breakthrough. Clearly, Xiaochen was not in a rush. Half a month later, Xiaochen suddenly shouted. All the bones in his body crackled continuously. A drawn-out aura rushed to the sky and scattered the lingering black smoke. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art's 4th layer, dragon tendon tiger bone, had reached small perfection. Xiaochen leaped up and arrived before the dragon phoenix cauldron. Then, he casually punched. Bang! The dragon phoenix cauldron gave off a muffled sound. The cauldron trembled as it flew forward. All the trees in its way were smashed into pieces. After a long time, the cauldron landed heavily on the ground. The 3 cauldron pillars sank 1 meter into the ground. Xiaochen withdrew his fist and said softly, "After small perfection, my strength increased by 5,000 kilograms of force. There are still 2 more great perfection and peak great perfection. After that, this dragon and tiger body sculpting art will reach consummation. At that time, a casual punch from me should have 25,000 kilograms of force. A full power strike should be 50,000 kilograms of force. I should be able to open the remaining 3 acupoints on my right arm." A joyful expression appeared on Xiaochen's face. His heart was filled with anticipation. After that, he used the life bestowal spell to check the situation outside. He discovered that the huge profound ice palace of the Duanmu clan had already disappeared. It has been almost half a month. It looks like they can no longer hold on. It is time for me to go. Xiaochen withdrew his spiritual sense and smiled faintly. Afraid of an ambush, Xiaochen used the life bestowal spell to fly out. He circled the area once before he confirmed that everyone had left. Xiaochen did not linger any longer. He instructed the silver-armored warriors to carry the dragon phoenix cauldron and quickly left this underground forest, returning to the mountain range. Although the air in the mountain range was still turbid, it was much better than underground. Xiaochen took a deep breath and felt his chest relax. The sky above the Ink Mountain range was filled with fatal danger. Xiaochen did not dare to use the Scarlet Throne or the Silver Warship to fly over. The rank 7 demonic beasts that filled the sky would tear him to shreds. Xiaochen could only obediently kill his way back from the ground. He would treat it as experiential training. Since ancient times, the strong had tempered themselves. Xiaochen laughed loudly. He held the lunar shadow saber and walked forward in a heroic manner. Half a month later, at an exit of the Ink Mountain range, a youth wearing alternating blue and white robes with a blue strip of cloth tied to his forehead slowly walked out. A spirit fox sat on his shoulder and a sword hung at his waist. This person was Xiaochen. He looked somewhat fatigued, but the light in his eyes still flickered, his sharpness was still present. Xiaochen raised his foot and stepped out. When he saw the sunlight that he had not seen for a month, he narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly. I'm finally out. Today, I realized how wonderful fresh air and sunlight are. Including the ink forest, Xiaochen had cultivated bitterly for a month. The state of massacre that the Scarlet Throne had collected had turned into a deep pool of spring water. It was 10 times more than before. Of course, it was still incomparable to the vast sea it was at the beginning. The bigger gain was that Xiaochen's reactions had become sharper due to the high-intensity battles he had experienced over a long period of time. His usage of martial techniques had become more flexible. The number of demonic cores, in addition to the ones he left in the subspace of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, reached a horrifying number. Xiaochen counted them. There were more than 1,500 rank 4 demonic cores, 1,000 rank 5 demonic cores, and 700 rank 6 demonic cores. This was a huge sum of wealth. If he exchanged them for spirit stones, he would definitely be able to get at least 2,000 medial grade spirit stones. It might even be more. With Xiaochen's current cultivation speed, he would consume 1 medial grade spirit stone a day. 2,000 medial grade spirit stones would be enough for him to use for 6 years. Even if Xiaochen's cultivation realm increased and the consumption increased, it would still be more than enough to last him for 2 years. With the remaining 5,000-odd medial grade spirit stones, Xiaochen could buy whatever he wanted. However, when Xiaochen saw the 2 silver-armored warriors carrying the dragon phoenix cauldron behind him, he frowned slightly. He could not think of how to deal with this. He could not store the dragon phoenix cauldron in the universe ring. It was so huge. If he placed it somewhere else, it would be very eye-catching. Chapter 330. Xiaochen muttered to himself for a while before saying, "It looks like I can only place it in a more reputable pawnshop. I remember that the Merchant Association of Feng Feishua's clan runs a pawnshop as well. How about I place it there?" Hu Qi. With a thought, the Scarlet Throne flew out on a scarlet cloud. This place was still within Dongming province. The silver warship was rather eye-catching. Xiaochen was afraid of being recognized. So, he could only use the Scarlet Throne. The silver-armored warrior carried the dragon phoenix cauldron and slowly walked to the red cloud. The red cloud was incredibly soft, like it was solid. There was no need to worry about falling. Sitting on the throne, Xiaochen operated the throne with all his might. He quickly soared into the sky, heading for Dongming province's capital. One night, 2 days later, Xiaochen landed silently outside Dongming city. He first entered the city and obtained a large box to store the dragon phoenix cauldron. Then, he headed for the city again. Bringing a large box into the city in the middle of the night would inevitably attract the attention of the city guards. However, ordinary people would not be able to make out anything special about the dragon phoenix cauldron. So, there was no need to worry about the city guards discovering anything. Xiaochen calmly opened the box. After he showed it to the city guards, he entered the city without a hitch. Xiaochen was not in a rush to go to the pawnshop. Instead, he found an inn and asked for a good room. Then, he took a good bath. After washing away the fatigue from the past month, he fell into a deep sleep. The next day, after asking the waiter for the location of the Feng clan pawn shop, Xiaochen carried a large box and rushed over silently in the middle of the night. The name of the pawn shop was Victorious Leader. It was already closed in the middle of the night. Azure steps extended to the door. There were 2 fire phoenixes carved on the door. This was the symbol of the Feng Clan Merchant Association. As long as a shop had this symbol carved on it, it would be considered a property of the Feng clan. As Xiaochen slowly walked up the steps, he immediately felt a few strong auras lock onto him. These auras scanned his body continuously, trying to see through him. Dongming City was one of the 4 great cities in the world. The pawn shop that the Feng clan placed here would definitely have a lot of business. It was no surprise that it was heavily guarded. Clang clang clang. Holding the wooden box, Xiaochen calmly walked to the door and lightly knocked on the knocker. Who is it? It's the middle of the night and you don't let me sleep. You're here to pawn things. A shop assistant opened the door and said with sleepy eyes, Victorious Chief Pawn Shop. We don't do business at night. Come back tomorrow. After he finished speaking, he was about to close the door again. Xiaochen held the box with one hand and blocked the door with the other. He smiled gently and said, You don't even want to do a big deal? The waiter laughed and said, Big business? How big? Xiaochen smiled and didn't say anything. He directly pushed the door open. The waiter couldn't resist this force and quickly retreated. He seemed very angry. Xiaochen loosened his grip and the wooden box landed on the ground with a thud. The huge weight of the dragon phoenix cauldron caused the ground to tremble. The waiter was startled, he was astonished. He did not expect such a heavy item. To think that this youth in front of him could easily lift it up with one hand. The waiter, who was about to chase Xiaochen away, turned serious. He no longer felt sleepy as he said, Young hero, are you pawning something or storing it? Storing it. Xiaochen said simply, I'm also selling something at the same time. The waiter smiled bitterly and said, However, our appraisers are already asleep. It is not convenient to wake them up at this time. Xiaochen casually looked around the hall before sitting on a chair by the wall. He took out a medial-grade spirit stone from the universe ring and smiled faintly, Is this fine now? The waiter looked at the medial-grade spirit stone on the table. A greedy look flashed in his eyes. Even a waiter of the Feng clan's pawnshop had good eyes. Naturally, the waiter recognized what this was. A medial-grade spirit stone. If it was exchanged for gold, it would be enough for him to live a luxurious life for most of his life. The waiter grabbed the medial-grade spirit stone and smiled, Yes, no problem at all. I will call our master over now. The waiter immediately took out a medial-grade spirit stone. It looks like this is a big deal. If I wake the master up, I will not have to fear him scolding me. Xiaochen looked at the waiter's back and felt a slight heartache. This time, he could only spend a lot. There were many people here during the day. It would be hard to avoid news of this place leaking out. It was worth it to spend an extra medial-grade spirit stone. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, there was the sound of footsteps coming from the back of the hall. The waiter from earlier led an old man over, looking travel-worn. The old man wore long gray robes and walked with steady steps. His eyes gleamed and his chi and blood were vigorous. He did not look old at all. When the old man arrived before Xiaochen, he performed a cupped fist salute and smiled, My family name is Huang. I am the chief appraiser of the Victorious Chief Pawnshop. I have yet to ask for young hero's name. There were not many people who could take out a medial-grade spirit stone as a tip. While they were speaking, the old man carefully sized up Xiaochen. He was already a medial-grade martial saint at such a young age. However, this was not strange. Such a youth could be considered an outstanding talent. However, there were many of them everywhere. However, the old man felt a dangerous aura from this person. The old man had already become a peak inferior grade martial king long ago. However, he was too engrossed in appraising antiques, which delayed his cultivation. This youth is not simple, the old man concluded in his heart. Xiaoqin performed a cup fist salute and smiled. I do not dare to claim my name. You can just call me Yiqin. Could I trouble Master Huang to help me take a look at this item? I would like to store it in your shop for a period of time. The rules of the pawnshop were that the value of the item was determined. As for how to appraise the value and rank of the item, it depended on the appraiser's eyesight and knowledge. Xiaoqin had brought the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron here because he wanted to use this opportunity to appraise it. He wanted to see if he could obtain any useful information from the other party. Master Huang nodded slightly. Xiaoqin flicked his hand and sent out 4 strands of energy. The box immediately opened, revealing the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. The dragon and phoenix carved on the cauldron looked very lifelike. 1 dragon and 1 phoenix chased each other. The cauldron gave off an ancient and heavy aura. The Dragon Phoenix Cauldron in front of Master Huang was instantly stunned. His expression froze and he was tongue-tied. He was so shocked that he could not speak properly. Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. It really is one of the 3 replicas of the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Why is it with you? When Xiaoqin saw the old man's expression change, he thought to himself, it looks like there's a chance. Xiaoqin stood up and asked, Old sir, do you recognize this cauldron? Master Huang recovered his wits and knew he had lost his composure. He smiled apologetically. The original Dragon Phoenix Cauldron disappeared long ago. There are only 3 replicas left. The Feng clan has been searching for this cauldron for thousands of years. I did not expect it to appear in little brother's hands. Xiaoqian's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the Feng clan has already grasped the method of refining secret treasures? Everything is ready except for this cauldron. Young hero Yiqin, may this old man be bold enough to ask if you are willing to sell this cauldron? If you are, the Feng clan will be able to bear any price. Master Huang turned around and asked softly. Naturally, Xiaoqin had no intention of selling the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron that he had spent so much effort to obtain. He shook his head and rejected, I'm sorry, I will only store it and not sell it. Old sir, what do you know about this cauldron? Can you tell this junior about it? A strange look flashed in Master Huang's eyes. He smiled gently, I only recognize this cauldron. How would I know anything about it? Young hero Yi is too kind. Xiaoqian's gaze was like lightning as he took in the old man's expression. He knew that this old man was purposely not saying anything, so he could not be bothered with him. He said, never mind, since old sir is not willing to say, then state a price. I intend to store this cauldron here for a year. Master Huang thought for a while before saying, 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones. What do you think? Perhaps there is another way. You can lend this cauldron to our Feng clan. You can come and collect it at any time. If that's the case, not only will we not need your spirit stones, we will even give you 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones every year. Xiaoqin thought for a long time. After a while, he made a decision in his heart. He said, sure, but I want to discuss this with your young master personally. Xiaoqin had his own considerations. Although he had the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and the Lunar True Flame, he did not know the exact method. If he kept them, he would need a long time to figure out the method. Xiaoqin might as well hand the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron over to Feng Feishue and exchange it for the method to refine secret treasures. After that, he would let her use the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron for a period of time. This could be considered as repaying her some favors. The most important thing was that Xiaoqin really wanted to see her. After returning to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Xiaoqin had a premonition that he would be leaving the Great Qin nation soon. After Xiaoqin agreed to Feng Feishue's promise, he did not see her come looking for him. However, she did get Princess Yingyu to look for him once. However, she did not explain things clearly. After leaving the Great Qin nation, Xiaoqin did not know when he would return. He might as well take this opportunity to have a good chat with Feng Feishue. When Master Huang heard Xiao Chen's words, he was slightly taken aback. He said with some embarrassment, "Young hero Yi, the Feng family has a big business, and the Shinkue pawnshop is just a small place. It's really a bit abrupt to invite Miss Feng here. Besides, I can make the decision to borrow the cauldron." Indeed, the Feng clan had shops all over the continent. Although the Dragon Phoenix cauldron was important, there was no need to get Feng Feishue over. Furthermore, Feng Feishue had been running around the continent for the Feng clan's business for a long time. Aside from some specific days, she did not have a fixed residence. It would be difficult to invite her with Master Huang's status. Master Huang explained the difficulties to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen thought for a while and said, "In that case, never mind. I will leave this Dragon Phoenix cauldron here. If you can make an appointment with Feng Feishue, then come and talk to me about lending it to you." When Master Huang heard this, his expression could not help but change. He felt that it was a great pity. Just as he was about to ask Xiao Chen to stay, he suddenly thought of something. His face filled with a smile again. He asked in anticipation, "Young hero Yi, may I ask if you are the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Qingyun Pixie Chen?" Xiao Chen felt it was strange. He nodded and took out his identity token to prove his identity. He asked, "What's wrong? Does Master Huang recognize me?" Master Huang smiled and said, "There is no need to ask young Master Yi about this. If you trust me, you can leave the Dragon Phoenix cauldron here first. Come back tomorrow at midnight, and you will be able to see Miss Feng." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.